one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Any revisions to tonight's agenda?
A couple of highlights that are in red, but otherwise, no.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I think the timing might be in question. I mean, I'm expecting the communications portion of tonight's meeting to be longer than what the agenda has. So just as a heads up.
Okay, so it looks like we've got. Okay. Yeah, we can play it by ear. Did you have a, do you suggest moving that to another time or?
No, I mean, I
Six in
just,
the agenda.
I would think that given all the debate the board has had on communications over the past few months, that having a 2-hour window, according to the time, may not be sufficient.
Okay, I hope that it is. I hope that it is. And I know board member Heidi Ames is on her way to the meeting.
I see
She
two there.
will be attending in person, but will be about 15 minutes late. She was hoping. Okay, so with that, I'll read the summary of non-public actions from June 29th, 22. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to accept the nomination of Jacqueline Hathaway Ruby as LMS Spanish teacher at a salary of $70,220 for the 22-23 year. Mrs. Hirschberger seconded, and the motion carried 5-0. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to CHS social worker at a salary of $65,223 year. Mrs. Ames second and carried 5-0. We would like to welcome Doug Totten, our new business administrator, official meeting as our BA.
Awesome.
So welcome.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll go to community input. Any input?
Nothing.
Nothing? All right.
Let me just check the.
Sure.
We keep hoping.
There's nobody in the.
In the Google Meet. All right. Everybody is out enjoying the sunshine and their nice summer weather. So that. Oh,
Well, can you guys pull up the email that we got? Am I next? I can't. I have a new computer. I'm having a hard time getting it. Am I up?
almost.
Okay. Oh, user ID is incorrect.
We can take the superintendent comments and then go back to
Awesome.
correspondence
Thank
if you
you.
want.
It's only
I know
one.
it takes a long time to log in. Is that all right, Mike?
That's fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. So a couple of things. I wanted to give an update on the LMS project. The last time Andrew had discussed it, I remember the community had reached out with concerns about things that were added by the public at the, or they weren't really added by the public. They were just requests from the public at the deliberative to be sure that the system is going to deliver the quality that we would expect. And if you remember, our engineers had insisted that even though the units do have a defrost mode, that they are designed to make sure that there is ample heat being provided in the winter, which is the biggest area of concern. And however, we explored the idea of putting in duct heaters so that there would sort of behind the duct grate that you see here in the room, there would actually be an individual heater, electric heater coil that could provide heat so that when the unit was bringing in cooler air and not supplying the warm air, that there'd be an ability to have a redundant backup system. So what ended up happening is based on that feedback, when the plans got sent out to all the various contractors, it included that we wanted to have these duct heaters in there. But we also, anytime you send plans out in a construction project, the plans will include sort of two pieces. One is an alternate. In other words, the ability of the company to say, I know you specified that you want this, but we would like to be able to provide an alternate for you because this would be a savings model in some way or a better way to go about doing the work that you're doing. So you have this ability to submit alternates in. You also request deletions. So if there are things in the project that can be deleted, that the companies are able to offer that. Part of the purpose of doing deletions is that you can isolate the cost of doing something. So a HVAC supplier is providing a quote to provide the air into the room. And if it includes duct heaters, you get one price for all of that. And you never know how much did the duct heaters cost. So when North Branch sent this out, and what you have there are 3 documents. You have the basis of design document, which is what is it that we're proposing to do. You have the HVAC schedule, which clearly shows that there are 13 duct heaters. And I'm going to point out to you that they are numbered 2 through 14, but there are 13 of them. I'm not quite sure where number 1 went, but there are 13 of them. And then you see that on the plans, there was also this ability to deduct the space heaters out of the ducts. The reason we did that is we wanted to know what it cost to do those. And the answer is $55,000. That was the ad that we put on the project to make sure that there would be the ability to keep the space heated. So the only way to know what the cost of that ad was is to say, if we delete this, how much would we save? Okay, so it goes out to everybody. They then provide that information back to North Branch. North Branch comes back to us and says, okay, now we know the duct heaters cost $55,000. We had thought our estimate was that it was going to be about a $100,000 ad. It ended up being a $55,000 ad when it went to the winning bidder. We now say, thanks for the information. We decline that deletion, just like we decline your alternate proposal, right? So it's our ability as the owners to sort of respond to what it is that they bid on that. We declined the duct heater deletion, meaning there are 13 duct heaters that will be installed on the project. And I want you to see the paper trail of how that occurs in the bidding process. I wanted you to hear the explanation of how North Branch goes about this. There is, I mean, I guess we could have said, you know what, we've changed our minds and we want to delete those. But I can assure you what I said to the board, the commitment was, we don't want egg on our face. We're going to add this in. Our engineers say it's not necessary. Public sentiment was, are you sure? You better do it. We went with, we're going to do it. And so it is in there. But I can understand how somebody in the trades who saw the proposal from us would have a question of, what did they decide to do? Keep it or delete it? The answer is we kept it. But you only know that when you ask the question and come forward to say, tell us where we are with the duct heaters. So I'm happy to pause and answer any questions that you might have on those 3 artifacts that I provided to the board that sort of get to the heart of the duct heater question.
I think from my side, obviously the first time I'm seeing these documents, which is great. Thank you for sharing them. I'm still not understanding what the word declined, right?
We
We declined it to understand the price.
We declined the deletion. So NPI, who is the ultimate winning bidder, they come forward and they say, to do the work that you've scoped, it'll cost this amount.
Yeah.
If you deduct the heaters out, you can save $55,000.
Understood.
So now we know the value of the heaters that were added. We have one more ability to say, do we really want to do that? And our answer was, we do. So therefore, we decline the deletion. We're not going to delete them out. We're going to install them as specified.
So where in the documents do I see they're still in scope?
If you look at the top document, you can see that it's been declined.
Yes.
I mean, it's in the, so that's the contract that we have with, I'm sorry, that's the contract that North Branch has with the HVAC vendor. And you can see that all of the alternates, so they propose an electrical alternate that would add 15,000, we declined it. They propose a mechanical alternate that would deduct 28,000, we declined it. So all of those, Andrew, are sort of, it's what's marked on that contract. And the one in red, duct heater alternate, omit duct heaters and associated electrical scope. We could have deducted actually 56,000 roughly, and we declined that because we want to have those in there just in case.
Understood, and I see that. I guess that I'm not sure that answers the question because I'm still trying to figure out, well, where can I still see it in scope for the project? I understand we declined it, but where's the order that shows it ordered
The
as
next
specified?
Isn't it? The schedule, HVAC schedule.
I guess you would have to, so this is one page of the contract with them.
Yep.
So then you would have to, there have to be other pages that would say with the sub, here's what the specs are. And give me 1 second, because if I look at the next document, so the HVAC schedules, and this is wicked tiny, but if you blow it up, you get to see that included in there are the duct heaters. That's how I was able to, I'm analyzing this, trying to sort it out. And I said to Joe, why are they numbered 2 through 14? And he said, good catch. Probably at one point there were 14 of them and one got deleted by the HVAC engineer.
So the box highlighted in red.
Yep.
Where it says mark EDH2 through EDH14.
Yep.
I'm assuming there's some type of make and model associated to each one of these units that would allow us to confirm that's the appropriately ordered.
It's right in that grid. So EDH2, if you read across that, that's the, hang on a second, I'm going to go.
I see model IDHE.
Andrew, I guess I don't understand what further confirmation you're looking for.
I just want to make sure this make and model of the units that were actually procured match the spec of what we went out for.
Well, that is the spec. So that's EDH2 is how it's marked on the drawing. So it's electric duct heater number 2, and it's servicing energy recovery ventilator number 2. The function of it is post heat. So in other words, it supplies heat after the energy recovery has heated. But if it's in defrost mode, now it's additional heat, post heat. The make of it is green heck. The model is an IDHE. And then you have all the factors that go along with it in terms of the sizing,
Got it.
its capacity, what its energy usage is, et cetera. It's all laid out in that grid.
Okay. Thank you.
And this is what went to the people proposing. So and remember, NPI was the winning HVAC subcontractor. It probably went to 10 HVAC people, and they all, they have the ability to say, you know what, instead of giving you the green heck IDHE, we're going to propose a similar model, and here's what you could save with this alternate. So they have the ability to propose that alternate to us. But we have the ability to say declined. We want our guy says the green heck IDHE is the one to get. And so that's what we would like to stick with. And you can see how nuanced it gets. That's just electric duct heaters.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the rest of that page. I mean, you've got all the other materials relative to the project that are spelled out and specified. And let me take it a step further because I want the board to understand. So then what happens? And Doug and I were in the meeting today down at LMS. So we have our Wednesday review meeting. Dave Ely comes down. So remember, Dave's our architect. He's working for us. He's working for Litchfield. And Dave comes down and says, open up that Connex box. I want to lay eyes on these units. He is the one who's inspecting it to say it's not a cheaper model stuck inside a box. It's the actual thing that we bought, right? So there's not any subbing that's taking place of the equipment. Dave is the one laying eyes on it, taking pictures of it, recording it. And then, Doug, make sure I have this right. I know you're getting up to speed with this, but Dave reviews every single invoice. He matches it back to what he has observed on the job site in the weekly walkthrough. And make sure that what we are paying for is what we're getting. So before he signs off on it, he lays eyes on all of that and goes through it all. So
Yeah, so before we pay for it, he now has to check off that we've received what we paid for, what we're going to pay for, and then I have to check off after he checks off that the check is okay to go out. So it's a double check.
That's the quality control step that's on there. And then, I mean, quite frankly, Joe Campbell, in discussing this with Joe, he said, North Branch's reputation is on the line. If we have a sub that we've hired for you, we're the construction manager, we're working for you. And so if somebody's doing something that is not exactly what's specified without your permission and without everybody agreeing that that's what we're going to do, he said, I'm not going to let that happen. So not only is Joe Campbell watching it, Dave Ely is double checking it. We have the weekly meetings. I mean, today's meeting was, what did we start at 10:30 and we got out of there at 1:30.
Yep.
And it was every single detail about this construction meeting and managing all of these pieces that go into it. So
one thing I confirmed today too was that right now when we get an invoice, it's just kind of from North Branch, but moving forward, when we get an invoice, it will be from North Branch, but then each of the lines will be broken down by the subcontractors as well. So we're getting a little bit more detail for that because I think that's important for us to bring in. So that the next invoice will be, he expects it to go out early next week, and that one will include the subcontractor information.
So if I can I apologize for being late, so I don't know if I missed the beginning of this. My concern is, I'm going to be honest, even with this spelled out, I don't know what I'm looking at. This is way too detailed for me as a person who is not in this field, not a contractor, not in construction. And so I am concerned with the amount of time that you as the superintendent have had to take out of your time where you should be doing stuff for the district that isn't this level of answering this question. And so I guess I'm moving forward. What is the process in terms of if someone has a question, they should email you, not the board, but you or Doug about what's happening so that question can be answered and not take 20 minutes of a board meeting
At the most direct level.
at the highest level when again you could tell me that these things were whatever, I'm like, okay, I'm sure that sounds good. I don't know, I just worry the amount of time this is taking. And again, this is one person in the community who had a question, who works in the trade, who questioned the authenticity of our statements, your statements that we did this. And so if we were to take this is a lot of detail that I just don't know that we as a board need to be in the weeds on, but also you as a superintendent need to be in on. And I'm concerned about that going forward. Every step of this project, I understand
agree,
there's a
100%.
microscope. I understand people are concerned about the project. I understand that, it was a contested vote, but at the end of the day, it passed and it's going forward. It's moving forward. If people have questions, I absolutely want to have that transparency and answer them, but it shouldn't be a 20-minute explanation to the board.
Should all happen
I would
at
have
the
been
most
comfortable
direct
with,
level.
yep, we have it covered. It's green check IDHE model. Google it, and this is the unit that was procured. Perfect.
But see, I don't even need to know it's
I don't
green
even
check
need to know.
IDHE.
But that answers the question. You know what I mean? That says to the public that, yep, it is still in scope. This is the model we purchased. Done.
But this is where I would say the public's not asking the question. This particular taxpayer is asking the question, and that should be an email exchange between them, and that is not at a board level. Because I wouldn't even know the questions to ask to verify. No, we should be using a blue check IDH.
I don't
whatever.
want.
I don't know.
I want Mike in the schools. No offense to LMS, Jen, whatever. Mrs. Grantham, you need to be in the schools getting our teachers straightened out. And Doug, we trust you. That's why we hired you. Mike's job is to be in the schools, get the administrators on the same page. We have so much work to do. I don't need the minutia.
But that's also why we hired Dave Ely.
Exactly.
Our agent and to kind of oversee the project at LMS.
And you have a commissioning agent who at the end will
Right.
check everything, and the
Exactly.
retainage doesn't go out until everything is
Yeah.
checked and approved. But I wouldn't mind, I don't know if they go through Mike and then to me, but I would appreciate the opportunity
Even
to be
CC.
that person, because I'm going to be connecting with Dave Ely and with
Joe.
Joe as well,
Right.
throughout this
And
time.
absolutely, like Heidi said, we definitely want to make sure questions are answered.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of, is it a board issue? Is it a superintendent issue? And I think we'll discuss this further when we talk about our communications.
Which is
Um,
fine.
yeah.
I just wanted to say for the next time that a question's ask the question. That's fine, but send it to the appropriate person, and then you can direct it to whoever you think is best to answer the question. And then it is, again, I don't think the whole public is asking which heaters we've ordered for which vents. And
I think the public wants you to stay under budget. If that's the biggest thing, get everything you promised with maybe a little savings. That's what I would like to see personally.
Do what we proposed we were going to do.
Correct.
And again, no disrespect for the answer. I appreciate the time you put into this, but that's time
But
you
I,
could have been doing something else.
true. However, I think what we have to do here is really just focus on, what I'm trying to do is show the board that we're on top of it and
Yeah.
that you've hired people to be on top of
Right.
it. When we make accusations of things being shady, of people lying, of people not being forthcoming, we're going to have to back it up. We have to come forward to say, that's not really what's going on here. Everything that is asked of us, we're trying to deliver on. If somebody has a question, ask the direct question. Are the duct heaters still in there? The answer is yes. If the question is prove it, I'll get you that proof, but we're going to pass that off. And again, it's the same thing. Joe Campbell is the president of North Branch. He dug all this up. He taught us. He taught me. Here's how to tell. This is where I think this came from. And I just think what we have to recognize is that we are watching this very carefully. I pay taxes too, maybe in a different town, but I watch my tax dollars, and I am not going crazy with Litchfield tax dollars. We are legitimately trying to get these, these schools have been neglected for years, and you've asked us to get them fixed. And we now have a plan, and we're making headway on those things. And we're going to be efficient with it. Doug came to me and said, I figured out that the $10,000 saving came from this, the way the ceiling tiles.
That's
are
my
being-
letter. Shh. That's
Oh.
my letter. That's my part.
But he says, I couldn't think on my feet the other night when I was asked about it. And I said, email the board, tell them about it.
And you know what?
because
This is perfect.
They know that we're on top of these pieces. And by the way, that was a sub who came forward and said, we have a product and it's going to save you money because it saves us a tremendous amount of time. It's beautiful. We're doing that on a daily basis with this project. And I just need the public to understand that. And I hope the board to recognize that. And Heidi, I hope I don't have to dig in, but I'm ready. If you want to know, we'll dig in and we'll get it.
I'm good. I trust you. I think you guys are doing a good job with this project. Again, I think if there's a question, it should be asked, but it should not necessarily be here.
I can understand the question though from the public, right? Because if
Yeah.
it does say declined on what's spec'd, right, that creates the question, and that's exactly what happened here. Anyway,
So are you all set now? It sounds like we're all set on that. I'm going to have Mike just do his graduation report, and then we'll bounce back to
Yep.
correspondence.
Thank you for that. So graduation report, this came from the high school. You can see that there were 96 students. We had in the senior class total, we had 90 who graduated from Campbell, plus there were 6 who completed Londonderry Nights. You see the percentages of 4 versus 2-year schools. So it's a grand total of 74% of the class that are going on to some kind of post-secondary ed. And then you can see the remaining 25%. Pardon me. It's basically 16% that are workforce, which is the largest aspect of the non-college students. 7% career ed, 1% military, 2% apprenticeship, and then 1 student is taking a gap year. So that accounts for everybody in the class.
What's the
And-
difference between career ed and career training versus an apprenticeship? I would think, I don't know.
I think career ed would be like there's a trade school in Berlin for diesel mechanics.
Okay.
That's a 2-year school.
But that should be
Career
up
training.
above. I'm going to have to flush that out.
I'm just
because
curious
I'm-
because I'm trying to understand. I would think career training, I might think apprenticeship because they're in training with someone, but
Yeah.
then it's separate from, I'm just curious.
My gut is that career ed means they're enrolled in some sort of a certificate program. It's not a 2-year school,
Yeah.
but it's going to lead to a certificate in.
Yeah.
Versus career training is I'm going into the workforce and I'm going to learn the trade,
Yeah. Okay.
um, which
Makes
is not through a formal apprenticeship. I'm not going to be an electrician's apprentice,
Right.
but I'll be in the workforce and getting training that way. So I think that's how they parse that out.
Mhm.
But add that up. I mean, that is the bulk of your
Mhm.
25% or 26% not going to school,
Right.
college.
Sure.
So most are in that training mode of some sort. It's the one gap year, one military student,
Mhm.
and then everybody else is career related.
Career-oriented.
Yep.
What I appreciate from this is that every student has a plan, and I think that was one of the goals. Our goals used to focus on four-year colleges and having a certain percentage of our students go on to four-year college, and I think the goal of every student having a plan after high school meets the needs of more students and kind of reflects what's going on as a nation. With the cost of college going up and the paybacks in the trades being much higher.
It's more of a need now. The average electrician's like 60 now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions on that?
I just have a comment. I don't know to what extent we or the community realizes, but Campbell ranks, according to U.S. News, Campbell ranks number 5 in New Hampshire for the 4-year graduation rate. And I know we've always been pretty high, but that is something that I think is worth celebrating. So congrats to all the students and the teachers and the support staff that are helping
Hicks.
to make this happen. Bill Hicks, exactly. So our graduation for U.S. News is 96%, which says it's well above the state median. So that's
Good to
great.
know. All right.
So I appreciate you bringing up that figure because we do a very good job personalizing Teach Kiddo. So finding a pathway, Londonderry nights, you may look at it and say, but 6 kids didn't graduate from Campbell. Well, look at other high schools
Right.
where the completion rate is nowhere near as high as ours is. So the ability to sort of take a kid where they are and to figure out how to get them to a completion is really one of the key strengths of the of Campbell.
Londonderry is an after school for kids that aren't early risers. I went to their graduation one year and they do like afternoon classes for kids that stay up they meet the needs of kids that don't fit well in even the schedule of and they work just as hard.
Mhm.
And I have to remember to go to the graduation. I always forget.
I
Speaking
will-
of non-early risers, I've been doing some research on let's see, the American Association of Pediatrics actually recommends middle school and high school students don't start school before 8:30 in the morning, which we're much earlier than that. So something for us to think about going forward. There are a lot of
Are you okay?
implications.
I'm ready. Yeah.
But then are you ready for your kids to miss an hour or 2 hours of school a day to go to football games and band concert or whatever? There's give and take to both.
Why do
Because
they
the
have to
rest
miss
of
school?
what?
Practice would just be later.
Games wouldn't be. They're not going to rearrange the whole Division 3 for Campbell High School that starts 2 hours
Well,
later.
that's a discussion. for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
committee.
But that's
and
the
this is why I
pushback.
don't have the energy for it yet.
Right.
Right. All right. Any
All
other
right,
questions or
side.
comments on the graduation report?
No.
All right. Hearing none, I'll move back to correspondence.
From Doug Taunton. This was received July 5th. And this is in response to a question that was asked for about $10,000 savings. And this Doug over there wanted to make a correction to the information that he supplied during the June 29th school board meeting. When asked about the $10,000 savings at the LMS project, I responded that the savings was due to the contractors discovering that 9 rooms already had 20 amp outlets. While this information is still correct, it is not the reason for the savings. The savings are due to labor savings that will be realized due to the use of TEG tabs. By using TEG tabs, the subcontractors will save time in the installation of drop ceilings. It is the savings in labor that the subcontractor is passing back to the district. I apologize for this error on my part. Moving forward, I believe you will see that I pride myself in not making errors like this. If errors are made, please know I will always reach back out to you with a correction and an apology. Thank you, Doug. That was excellent. We use those in my basement. Bam, bam, bam. They go so much faster. The TEG tabs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that brings us to school board comments. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the public minutes. We have minutes from June 16th and June 29th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from June 16th and June 29th.
Second.
Okay, Tara made the motion, Heidi seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Public minutes are approved with a vote of 500. Next, we have the school board audit questionnaire,
We have that.
Here's
the actual one.
the actual one,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so as part of the audit process, every year we are asked to fill out this questionnaire. And then I will sign off on it. So I will read, you all have a copy of it in the attached to the agenda.
Yes.
All right, so I'll start with number 1. Do you have any knowledge or suspicions of fraud affecting your entity?
No.
No.
Okay. Have you received any communications from employees, former employees, regulators, or others alleging fraud?
No.
No.
Nope. Have you identified any specific risks of fraud within your entity?
No.
No.
Has the board adopted a universal code of ethics for members and employees to follow? Yes.
Yes.
If yes, does this document prohibit elected officials? It does not. We can do
No.
business with the entity. Have you or any related party of yours had any interest, direct or indirect, in any of the following transactions or pending or incomplete transactions since July 1, 2021, to which the SAU or any retirement savings pension or other similar plan was or is to be a party? So sale or purchase, exchange, or leasing of property?
No.
No. Receiving or furnishing of goods, services, or facilities?
No.
Transfer or receipt of income or assets?
No.
Does that include our stipends?
Yes.
So,
No, it doesn't. I mean, no. it
no,
doesn't.
so we're no on that. Okay. Maintenance of bank balances as compensating balances for the benefit of another
No.
and other transactions?
No.
No.
Page 2. Number 5, does the board have any concerns over related party transactions?
No.
I do not.
I don't really know what related
Yeah, what does
party
that mean?
transactions mean.
I assume someone related to.
The district?
Oh, like a relative?
Relative.
Okay, so
That
no.
was my guess, but I guess.
Maybe.
Transaction. So I think I'm assuming related party means a relative of yours.
Mhm.
Like if I had my husband work on the district truck.
Right. Okay. I do not.
Mhm.
Does the
Okay,
board, Andrew, you a no on that one
No,
too?
yep.
Okay. Does the board formally authorize all disbursements, both vendor and payroll, prior to the release of funds? Yes. Describe how the board stays informed of the latest changes in the laws and regulations pertaining to the entity.
NHSBA
Yeah. Legislative update.
news,
Yeah.
such as it is.
Uh-huh.
And your state legislators.
Yeah. Thank you. Does the board review comparative reports of estimated and actual revenues and appropriations and expenditures?
I don't know about the comparative part, but yes. We see the estimated and actual.
Yeah.
Expenditures.
You
We
think
see
no,
that.
Liz?
Not that
So-
often. We didn't see him very often.
Don't we see
I
a
would see
monthly?
it as part of the
See it
BA
monthly.
report.
Yeah.
It's the same
It's just
one.
administrator's report. You see
Yeah.
it monthly.
Yeah.
The BA.
So it's monthly?
Yeah.
What procedures does the board follow in reviewing or using these reports? For example, does the board normally meet with department heads of this as part of this process? Also, does the board review both the revenue and expenditure reports?
No.
So we don't normally meet with the department heads,
Mm-hmm.
and
We do receive a monthly update from the BA.
We also receive revenue and expenditure reports because those are forwarded to the budget committee, although they haven't been happening as frequently as the budget committee would like.
we'd certainly like to build the rhythm where they're on a monthly basis. Usually the
Mhm.
second part of the second meeting of the month, we'll receive those reports. You can include them in the agenda. I'll download them and send them to the budget committee so they have them.
Yeah, the chairman sent me an example. I asked him to send me an example of what the town gives, so I can kind of match up with that a little bit too.
Perfect.
So,
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
that,
we
that's
just-
our
I just
clock. Every
talked with him
Friday,
today
the town
about that,
sends out reports.
so.
I don't think we needed that frequently. Frankly.
No, I once a month
I
is
was the
fine.
once a month.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Has the board approved a disaster recovery plan in the event of loss or interruption of the IT function? Assume so,
I
yes.
think you did.
Yes.
And you have, I believe, coverage through Primex relative.
Yes.
to-
Okay. Is there a written investment policy adopted? Yes. If yes, provide a copy. It was last reviewed last meeting. It's very current.
It's fresh in the memory.
Yeah. 12, have you adopted the use of either debit or credit cards by employees?
The
Yes.
answer was yes.
Copy of policy providing the same?
Yeah, they have that.
They have that. Okay. Does the board have knowledge of any funds or bank accounts that are not in the custody of the treasurer?
Yes.
Yes.
Student activity.
Yeah,
Oh,
so those are all run through TD Bank.
okay. Student activity accounts?
Through all three schools?
All three.
All three schools, yep.
Okay.
And we don't have those?
No.
Been
Well,
getting
the
our-
treasurer doesn't have access to it.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Has the board approved a fund balance
I have a
policy?
question.
Nope.
Sports teams, how are those? Those are all.
Like booster and.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where your boosters
The
might be
booster would
outside
be a
of
different
school.
organization, but
Each
what
team
if
has
like,
fundraisers?
yeah, like what if
Boosters, they do
Certain-
their own.
Right.
But what if the
But the
team
teams
does?
do fundraising.
like-
That goes into the athletics activity account.
Okay.
Student
okay, so
activity.
the school does, and the
Although-
treasurer head then has access
It
to
used
that?
to be individual. Now it's one big one, I thought.
That I don't know.
Oh. So I think often the boosters are actually the sponsoring organization. So that keeps it off the school side. And when you say the one big one, like the golf tournament, so the athletic department runs the golf tournament in August, and that's one big fundraiser to benefit the athletic department and all athletics. So
And they also have, each team has their own little account.
Fundraisers. Yeah.
but
That's what I'm
typically
wondering
that's
about.
the booster side. That's
Okay.
not.
Oh, yes, this
It's
question
not
every
the
year.
So it's good keeping it the booster side, because the next question is about crowd surfing. And they don't really want.
Crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding. Crowd surfing, there you
I was
go.
like, really?
Summertime.
Already now.
I try not to.
Crowdfunding, so
Taking it back to
they
the
really
right
don't
seat.
want a school crowdfunding, because when the money comes in, you don't know who's giving the money.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, so it's
So
good
no
that it's going
for
through the
that.
booster.
And also no crowd surfing.
No
Crowd surfing.
that's
there.
Welcome to
Not
the-
close enough to the ocean.
Welcome,
That's a different
Doug.
school.
Okay. And we have approved a fund balance policy.
Yes.
Okay. I will go ahead and sign that. It is 7/6/22. All right. Now, let's see. That brings us to budget transfers for FY22 quarter 4. Are there
I
any
feel like
questions?
we've already approved the Gator, no Gator transfer.
We did.
We did last
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you.
Yep.
So maybe just we have an overlap in the dates
Yes,
here.
sometimes it does overlap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one thing that flagged for me was the 26,000 in history books, but I did look
Right.
back and we did approve approximately 100 new texts
Right.
for 9th and 11th grade. And
Right.
the prior book was like 15 to 20 years old. And it includes an online subscription. I was like, that's a lot
Books
of
are
money.
crazy
are
expensive.
crazy.
Yeah,
expensive.
so
But you have two in college.
So one thing that we've asked in the past, Doug, that we asked of Corey was, is it if it's possible to label what account these, like with a word, what account
Okay.
each of these came from and where it went to. I don't know if that's. I think it's a function
we have,
of the.
I
software.
have the listing of accounts, but it would be a heck of a lot easier if it's right in the
Yeah.
report. But
I don't
without
want to create
making
a
the
ton of work.
report, I
Right.
mean, if you can just replace the account number with the
Change
actual
this.
name, that
would be super
would be helpful.
So
If it's possible. If not,
We'll look into it. Yeah, if
Well,
not, I can get you like a cheat sheet of the account numbers too.
yeah, that'd be great. I have it
We have
somewhere.
that.
but-
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll make a motion to approve the budget transfers for fiscal year 22, quarter 4. Aside from the ones that we've
Second.
already authorized.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstain, 500. And that brings us to your report.
Yeah, so being my third day here, I don't have anything written at this point. But from listening to the last meeting, I have a picture in my mind what I'm going to produce for next meeting, as far as kind of help out with that budgeting process or funds coming in process. So in my mind right now, it's kind of taking all the funds that we get them from local IDEA, different grants, state, as well as property taxes, things like that, where they go into our accounts, and then how we use accounting to kind of separate them out into funds, and then to also kind of give more definitions of that on the back, and then a different page that talks more about the trust funds and how those are set up and how those are used. So hopefully that'll be a nice kind of graphic organizer to kind of help out with that. And as we kind of go out throughout this year, I'll try to provide more things like that as we move into,
Great.
say, the budgeting process or something else. So that will be ready August 3rd. I'll get that out for people
Great.
August 3rd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug, can you give a quick verbal report on the meeting prior to this tonight?
So, yep. So we met with drawing blank on the name of the meeting though.
The names of people or the?
No, the name of the meeting.
Oh, it was really future planning and budget planning was the purpose. So the budget committee.
Yep. So we had a good meeting with 2 representatives of the budget committee. We talked through a little bit of the budget process and how they believed, and I could see why, that they would benefit from getting the budget a little bit earlier, before kind of they were there the next day in front of people. So I talked about the difficulties of getting it, say, more than a week earlier, but my goal would be to get it at least a week earlier for people. So that would be for the budget committee and for the school board committee as well. So everyone would have a chance to kind of look at it during that week. During that week, we asked that, the budget committee, if they could provide, you guys started using a document last year where people could put their questions on that. So during that first week, the budget committee could start putting their questions on that document. But we asked the fact that we wouldn't answer those questions at least until after we presented the budget type of thing. So those questions could kind of help us kind of form our presentation about our budget presentation. But that first week after giving out the budget to the school board, it's really us going through it with the school board at that time. So that's where we want to kind of spend our time. And then we could start answering those questions after that formal budget presentation with the joint one with the budget committee there too. So my goal is to kind of move everything up a week as we kind of work with the principals and then the directors, and then as we form the superintendent's budget, and then so to get people that information a little bit before. Because I agree, it's a long budget, it's a lot to look through, and I would definitely appreciate the feedback after people had a thoughtful time to look at it, to get us any feedback to kind of work forward.
So for getting the report on a monthly basis, that does it. Some months it may end up being a week before a meeting, right? But some it may be right before. So
I
do you know
think
what I
Doug's
mean?
talking about the budget
The
process.
actual budget
Oh,
for
the
next year.
process.
For next
Okay.
year. So as we do fiscal year,
Okay.
24
Yeah.
budget type of thing.
Yeah.
So that should be out to everyone a week before we have those joint sessions
Okay.
between the school board
Getting
and
it
the
to
budget
them.
committee.
One of the things that's worked really
Yeah.
well in the town, having been part of that process for many years, right? One of the things that's worked really well is the town has it in a Google Sheet. I have no idea the accounting system that the school uses, or if it's possible to get some type of Google Sheet or interactive document where real-time changes. I think everyone understands that it's a point in time, and that certainly when the budget committee gets it, things are going to change. Everyone appreciates that, right? But I think also having it in a way where we can click it and access it and interact with it real time with the school board and the budget committee together, I think just creates a more collaborative process. I have no idea if that's
What do you mean by
possible.
interact with it?
Well, because with a Google sheet, right? You're able
Yeah.
to see it. You're able to see how changes are happening
Mhm.
as you have new numbers, right?
Right.
As you get insurance information, which you may not know at the time
Right.
of
It's
budget
all-
preparation, but it changes, right? So
Mhm.
things like that change. Everyone appreciates that. But
You just
seeing
want it
that-
the most up to date
Right,
possible.
because what's been provided in the past is a binder, very static, very fixed, right? 160 plus pages.
I like the binder.
The binders are great. They do serve a purpose, no
Yeah.
doubt, right? And some
Like
committee
paper.
members will ask you for that binder. Other committee members, like when I was on the board, would ask for an Excel sheet. Just give me the data dump, right, of everything in there, and then we'll make. But again, that's point in time, right? We understand things are going to change, and having that interactive document will showcase those changes as they happen.
Yeah,
would-
so I can look into that. Just kind of learning about our e-finance program a little bit. I don't think it's that interactive, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it would be nicer if it was. But I don't believe that will be the case where I'll be able to say, okay, here's our kind of Excel, or here's our.
That's
work.
always been my understanding.
Yeah.
But
So I'll
vision.
look into it a little bit more.
But a positive out of today's conversation was that the budget that we have posted online includes all those interactions. So
Yeah.
Doug was able to point out, if you look there, you can see the budget committee cut this amount on this date by this vote. It's all recorded in our public budget. So what is posted has a record of the changes that have gone on. So I thought it was a really productive conversation and sort of planning ahead. And I asked for the meeting because, one, I wanted to introduce Doug as our new guy. We'll get to say that for a year, Doug, and then it'll go away. But also that with the transition taking place in the town, I just wanted to make sure that we were all kind of going to be ready, because October is going to be here before we know it. And
Is
so
that how the town does it? An interactive document?
So Liz, I will tell you, I met with Troy Brown over the summer, and the budget committee might have thought that was a great document, but what Troy told me is that that was not tied to any of his accounting systems. So instead of, it may have seemed like it was a great document by the budget committee, but it actually created more work for the town. Time, effort, probably some error in there too, because anything out of there had to be actually put into the system. So
It's a double entry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, and keep in mind, they're what, a $7 million budget, and we're $22 million. So if it took more time, it'll take triple the more time.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So just keep that piece in mind as we're trying to find our way through what it is that we can produce and how we can analyze it.
Right. I mean, I would like links too, I mean, I your point is well taken about getting information just to know what's changed. If there's a way to flag it, asterisk, highlight, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, applying for the position, as to kind of look into the budget and things like that, I was impressed by how transparent it was online. And like Mike was alluding to, like, as soon as the school board makes a decision, it's voted, it's shown there too. Like we're taking 2,000 out of math type of thing, voted 5-0, type of thing. And then as soon as a budget committee, it's noted there as well. So I'll definitely keep that, because I think that transparency is nice, and just how each of the lines are broken down as well. So math might be a $20,000 budget, but you can see exactly where that 20,000 is going to. And I can see, I think, maybe the middle ground is using things like highlighters too, where, if there was a decision that something was changed, then I could hopefully maybe highlight that in a way which was
Oh,
more
I like that.
visible to kind of read through.
Well, thank you. Okay, we are on to board communicate. Actually, are there any other questions for Doug or comments? Well done.
Nice.
All right, so that brings us to board communications. So this was a topic that we originally had thought about doing at a work session or a retreat, and it has been scheduled for now. So I circulated, you all saw the document. I listed, what I did was I just started a document that listed all of the policies that we have regarding communication. So communications with parents, with families, with the community, different modes of communications that we might receive from the community, from families, from staff, from Mike, from the admins, the directors. And I just left space for everybody to kind of write down or make a note of the where we should be going and what kind of communications A, we're responsible for as board members, and B, that, to kind of form a plan so that we can make sure that we're holding communications and maintaining our policies as written.
Where
So-
do we write on stuff?
It's
I
just
would
that interactive
suggest
Word
all of
document.
us
I
have
don't see
taken
it.
an opportunity to go
Yeah.
through this and add what we thought was important. I would suggest, like, we had the attorneys here. I asked them, do you have a communications template? They said yes. We need to, my suggestion is we need to get a hold of that. And we,
So let's
just
we
send it tonight.
offer our comments that are written here, any other, thoughts we want to take.
Yeah.
And then literally turn it back over to the district to take that template and incorporate it in our comments like we did the goals process.
So you're thinking
last
like
year.
a communication plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would take into account everything that we've done,
Right.
everything that's in here.
I thought
Yep.
we had one. Didn't we start one? You talked about
We
it.
talked about
Talked
it,
about
it.
and we kept kicking the
Yeah.
can.
But it was
Oh,
right
COVID.
around, it was in the
Yeah.
middle of COVID.
Right.
Exactly.
So I agree with you. I think the district should have a communications plan.
Yeah.
What I want to focus on tonight is, as a board, what are our roles, and have the discussion about. I just kind of made some broad categories. With our presence on social media, having publicly held meetings and community forums, dealing with emails received and sent. We've had some discussion about meeting with community groups and then meeting with faculty and staff. So I kind of separated it into those 5 broad categories.
Sure, we can start
Um,
there. I mean, there are different buckets if we want to bucket them.
But I went to my first community thing, and I'm not Liz McDonald when I go to a community thing. I'm Liz from the school board.
Mhm.
I don't care who I am. I'm Liz from the school board,
Right.
and you are showing up at this event.
Yep.
So it's hard.
Yes.
What do you mean you went to your first community?
I've been laying low. Hard to believe. But I wanted to meet some of the candidates at the firehouse, and they look at me like I'm a school board person.
Yeah.
Now apparently a Republican, but whatever. I'll go to as many as I can because it's so close.
Right.
But everywhere you go, people ask us questions, and it's weird.
Right.
No one asked me questions though. I just took in all the information.
So I think
So you're just saying the nature of our
Our job
position
is-
lends us to
Yeah.
have,
I
even
agree
if we're going as an individual to a meeting.
It's like a teacher. You're a teacher, and someone will go up to you at a soccer game. How's my daughter doing in school? It is what it is.
yeah.
Mike can
Yeah.
go up north, and you're just Mike Jetty, moderator.
But the matter was brought up. I mean, Andrew presented at the first meeting. Andrew was in attendance for after the election. He said he'd been approached by some people in town who wanted to invite school board members to attend their meetings, and I think that's a great idea. I just want to make sure that we go about it in a way that we're still in keeping with our code of ethics and our responsibilities and policies as board members.
I think the code of ethics is really the starting document for me, which is why I put it as my first bullet.
Okay,
Um,
I printed it out. Let's see.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, in looking at other codes of ethics, and I don't know the back history on this particular policy. It does look like it was crafted specifically to Litchfield. There are state standards out there for codes of ethics. We've seemed to craft it in a way that meets our town, which is fine and great, and I'm okay with it. Right.
Yeah.
I think the challenge, and I think what really sets the tone for how we communicate, is really on bullet 3, and it's about supporting the superintendent and helping her be effective. I actually disagree with that, and allow me to explain.
Wait, which? Oh, I'm on the
Bullet 3
I'm on the. Okay, I'm on the.
on page
addendum.
1. I think all this is great. I don't think it's the role of the board to necessarily support the superintendent the way the sentence is written. I think the role of the board is to direct, govern, lead, whatever the right word is, right? But to do so in a way that then supports him or her to be as effective as possible, right? Our role as board is to govern, is to lead, is to direct. The first word of this sentence should not be support. It should be direct, govern, lead, whatever the right word is, but then
later on in the sentence and support him or her to be as effective as possible. That's how I read that, and that's how I believe that. And I believe that change sets the tone for how we communicate and how we lead as a district.
How do you think it's going to change?
I've already been called out in the first 90 days of being in this board and being in breach of this code of ethics because of not supporting the superintendent on a couple of occasions. I don't view that as the role of the board.
We can disagree with the superintendent.
Absolutely we can, but then I shouldn't be called out for not supporting,
Oh,
right? The role of the board is to directly govern, again, that right word is open for debate, but to do so in a supportive way. And I think it just changes the tone of that entire bullet.
I know, I have to think about that. This is the code of the ethics of the board as a whole. And so maybe what this is getting at is, as a board, our role is to support the superintendent. I think that's it.
But we are each asked to sign it individually.
That is true.
Right, and I was asked to sign it the same day I received it.
No, we're not
the
signing it
meeting.
individually. We're signing it as a board all together in the same document.
Right, but
So that's
individually
one-
at the same time. Like, there's a document
But
that's
it's all
passed around
five
on
of
the
us.
first meeting.
Yes, exactly.
So I think rather than discuss the policy at this point, we need to have a 7-day, we need to post. We can't discuss amending a policy or reapproving or reviewing a policy without 7 days notice that we're going to do it at the next meeting.
So we can.
You can, because you,
Unless we take a vote as the board.
but you take 2 votes. And so the 7-day notice becomes, you do the first
Okay.
read and you don't finalize that vote until the next meeting. In this case, it's going to be 30 days because your
Right.
next meeting is a month out.
And I'm not necessarily motioning to make a change at this meeting. I'm starting the conversation for how we communicate. Right?
And this is reviewed every year, so there's an opportunity.
But I think for new members, right?
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that I received literally the day of the meeting, an hour before. You are expected to sign this that day. Well, I haven't even had a chance to review it, and I'm being asked to sign it. You know what I mean? I think as new board members, we need to be sensitive to, they need time to review it and understand it before we're being asked to sign it.
I think you can support the superintendent and not agree with the superintendent.
And that's why I think the word support should be later on in the sentence. And support, and replace help with support.
So the reason I'm thinking it's the board as a whole is because at the bottom, it also says support all board decisions and assist in carrying them out effectively. And the way that's been explained to me is, you know, even if you vote to not support it during the school board meeting, if it's approved, that then becomes a board decision that we're all expected to support. You know what I
like the
mean?
budget committee
Yeah.
or the, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, point in case, right? At our last meeting, we talked about returning unencumbered funds back to the fact that failed 1-4. Great,
Yeah.
I support that. That was the board decision. Right? It wasn't my decision, it was the board decision. Fine.
Right.
We move on.
But what I'm saying is I think that the superintendent line is written in the same vein as that one that I just read. So, yeah.
I consider this to be our employee, our only employee as the board is the superintendent. And therefore it is our job as a board to support the superintendent, to help him be as effective as possible, exactly what it says. So if it's a different bullet point that's to govern and lead, I understand that. I think we need to do that. I don't know that it needs to be as part of the code of ethics. I think that reason why it's an ethical conversation is if we have an individual board member who goes out and bashes the superintendent in a public forum, that's a problem.
And that doesn't allow the superintendent to be as effective as possible. So am I piggybacking in the right vein?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to transfer it to
So
a
where's the right
business.
policy then where our role as a board is to do X?
That's in the law.
Right.
That's in the RSA.
You set the curriculum per the law. You adopt the budget. The budget is a pretty darn good roadmap of what you want to see happen. And it's marching orders to us,
And we draft and create
me
policies.
and us, and you draft policies. So all of those things that are the RSAs say the board has the power and authority to do.
So we have a policy, school board powers and duties, exercise all the powers and duties prescribed to them
In the
by
law.
the state law.
Right. Understood that. But again, I think the role of the board is to direct and to lead.
I kind of agree with Andrew.
But to do
But-
so in a
but at this-
supportive.
This document isn't board responsibilities and roles. This is,
Well, support the superintendent is
This is-
treating like a board responsibility.
but this is
just later down in the document.
But this is ethics. This is our
Yeah.
code of ethics. That to me, that's different than our board duties and responsibilities.
All right, fair enough.
So our board duty is to govern and lead. It's to be in charge of our employee. It's to all of those things. And that's where I see that falling as, part of that duty. But in terms of my ethical obligations as a school board member, that's separate to me. I see those as two different things, I guess.
We have
Alright.
another policy on board member authority. I see maybe
Well, the
this
board
could,
doesn't have any authority as individuals.
right,
Right.
it,
As a
right.
whole.
It
Right.
lies, yeah, the authority lies in its action as a corporate body.
The way I've always understood it is that the superintendent is part of the governance team. That you are elected and you have that authority from the RSAs. You hire the superintendent to join the team, to govern. And the governance is not, what do I want to do today? It's what does the policy say? What are the directives that we've been given? What is the budget that we've been outlined? What is the curriculum and so forth? So this ethical piece is, to me, saying, you've invited me to join the team and you are providing structure, and your job is to support me in executing that. Because on a daily basis, I'm the one sitting there counting duct heaters. You are not. And, that you have to know that we're out doing that job on a daily basis. And if I go rogue, if I say, forget about that policy, I disagree with where the board went with it, and, here's what we're going to do instead, which, by the way, I've never done. But, that's where you aren't going to support me. You're going to call me in and say, Mike, what are you doing? You went off script. But by and large, the hours that the schools are open and the weekends when I'm getting phone calls, we're fielding, and I say we, the principals, the admin team, the directors, we're the ones who are fielding those questions and guiding it. And it should all be within what you have outlined for us.
One thing I actually would like to see in this code of conduct is what happens if you don't sign it? Because we're living that right now with the library.
Right.
School board members, from the language I've read, are required to sign it. So what happens if you don't? Do you lose your position? Are you unable to vote?
Well, I
You
think
can,
that-
you can answer that?
Well, I think that's a
You
conversation.
can answer
for another
that?
day,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Under the
it is.
spirit of
It is.
communication.
And I don't think supporting the superintendent means unconditionally.
It doesn't.
I think I think in my view, I see supporting the superintendent as carrying out the goals of the school board. And for what's best for the students. I don't know. I guess I don't take it as literally as I have to agree with every decision the superintendent takes. I don't. And that's okay, but I support him in his role in carrying out the day-to-day operations of the district.
But I think supporting me is if you see me do something that you aren't sure about, it's asking the question,
Right.
help me understand, why did you do that? Or where did that come from? Or is there more to the story, right? so that we're working together as that governance team. Because sometimes I do have information and have encountered something that the board may not be privy to.
Yeah.
I need the ability to explain it.
I was just looking up, I remember reading, I don't know if it was in the NHSBA materials or if it was an actual RSA, but it stated that the superintendent is an ex officio member of the school board.
I read that
It's
somewhere.
In both places.
Is it?
That's true.
Yeah. So I think it goes along with supporting your fellow board members in, doing what's best for the kids.
What if you don't want to support your fellow board members?
And disagree with them.
Then
But-
we're not supporting them.
Right. I think the word
You know,
support
that's
is the right word.
But I think it says here, display and demonstrate courtesy and decorum towards fellow board members. I mean, that's not saying,
supporting.
not supporting, and it's not saying agree or disagree, because I think
Right.
the point is we should have a range of viewpoints on this board.
Absolutely.
And we should be able to have healthy dialogue, and there's gonna be times where people disagree, and to find either some sort of compromise, or maybe we don't find a compromise and somebody,
We go with the will of the board.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, but doing so in a courteous way that is not, swearing and being, I'm not, well,
Yelling or writing
Right.
on Facebook and
right.
right.
I think we're all good about that.
I mean, I'm trying to look at the other
Yeah.
supports, because there's two other words
Right.
that's bullets that start with support. Support all board decisions and assist in carrying them out effectively, and support the right and obligation of teachers to teach the approved curriculum. So again, I see support sort of in that same similar context of, what does support mean? And I think that's the same tone we want to take with the superintendent. To me, and I'm one person, but
Well, that's what I said earlier. I mean, that's just
So I think, my view is we should just table it, noodle over it, right?
Yeah.
And revisit it at our next meeting. in March.
Okay. We'll do a review of the policy at our next meeting. Okay.
I don't think there needs to be a review at the next meeting. I'm comfortable with it for the year. I think it's been reviewed in March, and I feel like
I'm comfortable with it
Wait
as
a year.
well, but I want to make sure that all board members.
Well, if I don't have the support for review of this policy, then just say so. Then it's tabled.
I think you know how I feel.
You want to make a motion, Andrew?
Sure. I'll make a motion to re-review our code of ethics at our next board meeting in August.
Okay.
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I
0, no, 2, 3, 0.
2, 3, 0.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not that I don't support you, Mike.
So
I just wanted to do my homework.
So this board is not willing to make any changes to the code of ethics,
at this time,
period.
because we just addressed it in March.
I didn't address it in March. I was forced to sign it in my first meeting in March.
Well, a quorum of us would.
what does force mean? I mean, honestly,
I
did
was-
we
I
put the
was
pen
just-
in your hand
I
and
was- I
force
was
you to
told
sign it?
On this date, my first meeting, I received it an hour before to sign this document today. Well, what if I don't? What happens?
But honestly, and I'll be honest, you had gone through every policy and had a list of 70 something policies
After
that
that
were
first-
out of at that
Was
first
at
at that
meeting.
first meeting, but I
So
didn't review
this
them
was
all.
part of that. I don't know if you read it or not. I mean,
That wasn't a review of all 271. That was a summary of this is the count of policies and these are the dates.
I guess I can only speak to my experience. My experience was after the election, I received a disc, a smart drive with the code of ethics, all the documents on it, and I knew what I had to sign.
I was not offered that same experience.
I didn't have that.
I do remember that there were some snafus with your email address.
Well, I linked the Google, the team drive and the folder with all the policies in it. It's the same thing as a.
Because we didn't have the
Flash
Google
drive.
Drives.
The
before
board,
the
I mean,
flash drives.
it's a done deal. The board has voted. This board is not willing
I
to
just
review
don't
the
like
code of
using the
ethics.
same word
Period.
3 times. It's like a resume. You don't use support.
The
Like
vote-
I
the
don't
vote
like
is
to
loud
use the
and clear.
same. Yeah, all right.
Okay.
I just don't want to keep rehashing things. Like, let's set a schedule. I mean, it's reviewed annually. I'm totally fine with that. If there's a reason and support for looking at it again, then fine.
Okay. So,
So can I bring up my concern with communication?
Yeah.
Just in general, I think, and I've said this before, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds of it. Before I joined the board, I had a particular issue, a concern, and as a member of the public, I thought if I brought it to the board, it was going to be heard, it was going to be discussed, it was going to be voted on, and that perception, having been on the board now for a year and a half, was not correct. That's not how it works. And I feel like there may be others in town that feel the same way. I don't like the way this is happening, so I want to bring it to the board. And so in my case, I met with the school administrator about the policy. I met with superintendent about the policy. Still didn't get an answer that I liked if that was good. And so I sat here and said, here's my issue. And then nothing happened with it. And I walked away kind of feeling disappointed. I'm like, well, where is everybody? Why aren't they talking about it? And so I think when people email us, particularly in the last 2 years with COVID, with CRT, all the different hot button issues that have been out there, people expect a response, or they expect it to be discussed, or they expect it to be on the agenda, or they expect there to be something. And so I want to have a conversation of how can we make sure that folks understand that they're being heard, we are seeing what they're talking about, but we aren't necessarily taking a vote on it, and that the board is truly only going to take action, is not in a position to take action on the smaller stuff. I guess it's the purview of the building administrator, purview of the superintendent. I that's the conversation I was looking to have as to communication, because having been on the other end of it, I felt unheard, and I don't want other folks in town to feel unheard.
I thought we talked about this, and I know during COVID, I had lots of things back and forth, and I would send it to Mike because you basically did the whole COVID thing, or whoever, or if an administrator did not get back to the parent, that's when I really was annoyed and would send it to Mike. And Mike, you always got back to every single person and gave a reason behind a decision. And that's was important to me. Or if I told the person to call you directly or set up an appointment, they always did. And you did give them clarity and made them feel better.
So when we did talk about this last time, we voted to add an auto reply basically to any emails that are submitted to the school board. So I got one today because I sent something to the whole board.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
So it says, thank you for contacting members of the Litchfield School Board. Please be assured that your message has been received by all 5 elected members of the board. Individual board members will not respond to questions asked of the entire board and may refer your inquiry to the superintendent of schools for follow-up.
When did you get that?
I got that when I just sent the link to the board communications. I send it to schoolboard@litchfieldsd.org.
But I wonder if that should be on our individual emails as well. So if someone sends an email just to Heidi, not realizing they're sending the whole school board, Heidi's should bounce back to them and say, this is what happened. Because I think you emailed the school board.
I did.
Which went to all of us.
So that's what you get if you
At
email the
450?
full board.
Yeah.
Right.
I just think personally, I want people to know I read every single
one.
email that comes
Right.
in. I promise you, I spend a lot of time reading, and I know everybody else sitting at this table reads every
Absolutely.
email that comes in, but they aren't all going to make it they'll be read in public comment, but they're not all going to make it to the agenda.
They'll be abbreviated. They won't be read into public.
Correct. You're right. They'll
So
be
that was my
summarized.
next question. So now let's focus a minute on the email responses. So I like the idea of adding an auto reply to our personal emails. So if somebody emails you directly through your school board email address, they get that same message, that same auto reply, that we are receiving them, we are reading them, and we might forward to the superintendent. So
I thought we had talked about putting a link in there to the chain of command policy.
There is one. I saw it. There is a chain. If you ever there is a link somewhere that
It's on
says
our website, right?
yeah, it starts with the teacher, then it
Yeah.
goes up to the
No, I'm saying, so in this auto reply email,
Oh.
I'm wondering if it would be helpful to say, Have you emailed the building administrator? Have you emailed the superintendent? Just to kind of make it clear.
Right.
I think what we talked about is that they were different by school.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's 3 different
Depending on
documents.
depending on what your concern is, it might be the director of
Right.
finance.
So it was too complicated to say,
Yeah.
here's the one document, but
Okay.
we did not set them up on individual accounts. We can do that. We
Yeah.
could literally put the same message on your auto replies.
Does that help that?
I think so.
Okay.
Because again, I just worry. I don't respond to the individual emails because as an individual, I can't.
Right.
Board member, I don't have authority to respond.
I said thank you to Doug today.
All right. So one of my biggest concerns are the assumptions that go out in emails from, I guess, principals. And then I'm trying to think back to elementary school if it happened, but
It's mostly the high school.
one of the things I think it's been throughout, like wonderful communications in the elementary school, right? Because you get them from the teachers, you get them directly from the teachers. And if you have a question about any of them, you could email them back directly. Hey, can you clarify this? So I don't remember it being as much of an issue, but I remember like the last 5 years, I have relied so much on parents who have older kids to explain things to me.
That's everywhere.
And you shouldn't
I
have
know,
to do
but
that.
it is everywhere.
I mean, we make assumptions when the principals list out all these events, like what is this event, first of all? Who's supposed to be going to that? Who's invited to that? Things like that. I mean, I will tell you, even this, last year with the competency recovery,
That was
Yeah.
good.
had no clue about that. And even this year, there's just, there was,
But the kids are supposed to be taking responsibility for some of this too. Your kids know,
absolutely.
or they're supposed
Or
to.
they
know.
No, they did not know. So
They didn't know they were failing a
So-
class.
Can we get back to the
Oh,
original
no.
scope of the email
Oh,
and the
sorry.
auto reply?
Yeah. I don't want to bounce around too
Okay.
much.
sorry,
I think
thought
that's
we were done with that.
no. I think
Okay.
that's a good kind of directive to the admins.
Is it?
And what?
Is there, I'm sorry, in the auto reply, is there
Yes.
consensus you want me to add it? Because I will have
To
Chris.
each of ours individually.
Yep,
make
so
sense?
each individually,
Yeah.
we might tailor that message a little bit.
Did
If
you
it's-
try that? That's kind of condescending, isn't it?
If somebody emails me directly, I feel like it should be read into public. I'm not saying the board needs to action it, but we should give courtesy to the person who sent it, even if it was to a direct board member, to read it in public minutes.
Or maybe what the auto reply response should be is if you want this to be read by the school board, please send it to school board at such and
They
such.
do, and we said no.
Right.
We want this read into minutes, and I was told I can't do that
Well,
because Brian started doing
No,
it
that
during
they
COVID.
need to forward it.
They did. Oh, you mean if
So if
The
if in my auto
auto
reply,
reply.
I
could
see
be.
it as a few different issues actually.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are quick to send an email with a complaint or just we've gotten some really negative emails without first trying to solve the problem at the lowest level possible. And I think it's easier to send an email and to hope in hopes of setting the board into action on that item than to come and speak or provide public input. I mean, we've provided opportunities. We have 2 sessions. I know Andrew had some concerns about limiting the scope of those comments. But we have a Google Meet that we open twice every meeting.
which I think we should do away with.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Can you make that motion, please?
Yes, I will make a motion right now to remove the Google Minutes from all of our meetings.
I second.
All right, I'll agree to it.
Wow. All right. I guess we'll take a vote then. All in favor of removing the Google Meet from our meetings? Say aye.
Aye.
Only
Opposed?
because nobody's called in.
I'm opposed.
I oppose too.
Why? Oh, I'm not allowed to ask, sorry.
Well,
You can ask. No,
you can ask.
I think it's another way for people to. I know no one calls in. I get it,
Yep.
and it's frustrating. But I think there are parents that are home with their kids in the evening that can't always come to a school
Yep.
board meeting, and I always want to have the door open for them to be able to.
I
They could
100%
also
agree
write
with
I
that.
felt that same way, but I'm going to say to anybody out there listening, if you feel like you want to call in and you want us to reconsider this, I would be open to it.
Bring your kids.
Yeah, but we've
Be more
kept it
fun.
open for a year.
We have more than a
More
year.
than that, yeah.
More than that. We started it because of COVID.
I also feel like our meetings start too early. Conversation for another day, but it doesn't support working families to be here on time.
I agree with that
So
as well.
that's another.
So that's another conversation. We have a lot of conversations
We
to be
would
had
have-
another
we
day.
got-
From the
We
original
got to work at
conversation.
having shorter meetings
So where
before
were
I
we
agree to
before the
that.
Google
Also,
thing?
another
What was
topic.
going
Yeah.
on before?
We were talking
So,
about emails.
If someone feels passionate enough to email me alone and doesn't want me to share it with the board, then I shouldn't have to share it with the public. Do you know what I mean? If you're passionate enough, I'd email you. This is how Liz McDonald feels.
But if they're passionate enough, they should email the full board.
Exactly.
I
That's what I
kind of
said.
Thank you.
I take the view that if someone is emailing a single board member, it is not something that they want read into the minutes, and it
Mhm.
is
I do
not
too.
something they want public.
Right.
Otherwise, they would be here to give public input, or they would email the full board, which takes the same number of clicks on a keyboard to
Right.
type in school board at Litchfield School District.
I don't mind the idea on the auto reply to say, hey, if you want, just as a reminder, right? I
Right.
know, I recognize you've emailed me directly, but if you want this read into minutes,
Right.
please re-forward your email to school board address.
Yeah.
Done. I don't mind that idea.
Okay.
At least it gives them the option in the directive on our auto reply
Sure.
as to what the appropriate channel is.
The next steps are.
So on the reply to that, I've never had a problem with saying, thank you for your email. Have a nice day. You know, I do think a courtesy of a reply, but we can't respond on behalf of the board on a personal email.
No, I did it by myself. That was just for me, right, Doug?
And that's,
You don't
I'm okay
remember.
with that. But I think we need to draw the line. You know, what happens next? So somebody contacts an individual board member. That board member then what? Comes for the board? Does the person want them to go to the board? Like that's
Why do
where
okay, let me just take this one step further. Why do we all have individual emails if really we're not responding back to anybody? Why don't we just, I know we need them ourselves, but
Yeah. Well,
Why?
we're on committees and things like that. So I get
yeah,
emails.
we do
from
need,
the
we
different
need an
committees.
email.
Yeah.
We do.
You,
That's true.
you need for Google, like meeting invites, that sort
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Meets.
it is driven by the individual, and then you
Right.
get lumped into groups. So
But I think we need to decide what happens then. If somebody contacts a board member, do we just go to the chair and Mike and
So this is where I see both sides of it, because on the one hand, if somebody's taking the time out of their day to email even an individual board member, I think it's something that should be I question and I lean towards, on one hand, it being something that the board should be aware of. Oh, okay, that's not on my radar. I'd love to have that on my radar, but I don't know that
everybody wants that?
everybody wants that. Right.
So maybe the auto reply is the right way to go. That says, if you'd like this to be brought to the attention of the board,
Just re-forward it. Yeah.
forward it
And
to
here's the
this.
address.
And we're still summarizing.
In that
That's
case,
the second question.
that's the
Okay,
second
so- all right,
Let's
sorry.
hold that
All right.
thought. Because I think that's a second question, is summarizing versus reading. And
Right. Okay. So we have consensus on that.
So the action step is each of you get the same message, and it says,
Mhm.
thank you for contacting me. If you want the full board to review this, please forward your message to
school board.
Right.
board doc.
I think that's the
Send through the
last
link.
bullet. I think the first bullet is if this is related to, I don't know, X, Y, and if it's related to curriculum or related to a school or, I don't know, like you need to be approaching the person direct. If this is a
Some
question or
people-
concern,
Are all of the chain of command,
you know,
are all of the chain of
right,
command
refer 'em to the chain
On
of
our
command.
website.
on one page on the
Yeah.
website, where we can
But
just
some
say,
people
Yes.
please
still do
consult
school
these
board.
charts.
They do it too. Yes,
See, Bert,
once-
I don't do the
once-
school board
once
email.
you-
I do you each individually. I don't do the school board email
You don't?
ever.
Oh, why?
Because it doesn't work
Okay.
sometimes.
Okay.
But yeah,
Really?
we
I do
talk
you
about
each
that, who you
individually.
contact.
Yeah.
We can put that on
The
the,
flow
it's
chart.
on their individual website.
It's on, yeah.
So if we put all of the contact charts, who to contact when, we put that all
I
on
think
one,
that's
one
first.
page, we can put a link to that in the auto reply.
Yeah.
Right.
That and then
And then if you'd like to
then
bring
if
this
you wanna
matter to
bring
the
it to the
attention of
school
the full
board.
board.
I think you can because they've done it for forwardings. Like
Yeah.
if you want to forward something, you click the, if
Okay.
you want to forward this, click here.
I just want to make sure we can do a link before
Yeah.
we agree to it, but if
Okay.
we can't, we'll get back to you.
But there will be people who email all of us individually. So that's also, I look,
Then they're gonna get a whole lot of bounce.
They are
back.
gonna get
Right.
Oh, now get the
Like
message
me.
across, right?
Then they'll use school board next time if they want
Yeah.
to.
Okay. So the next next topic under email is what do we do with the emails that are submitted to the full board? Right?
We read them into the minutes.
So
Read them or summarize them.
in the past, we have done both or either, but it wasn't consistent. And I
because
think,
of COVID, it got too much.
well, it got to be too much. And then sometimes we read them, sometimes we summarized them. And I think there were people who,
My husband included, who was annoyed how his letter was summarized. It lost the whole intent
Right.
of why he was emailing. He's still livid to
So-
this day.
I think that's a danger we run into when we summarize. But when we don't summarize, we still run into the, it's easier to send an email than to
So that's
come
my
and give public
concern.
input.
And that's
Right.
I feel like if people are concerned enough, they should come. I mean, we if we offer the Google Meet or we offer two opportunities for folks to come in and speak
Mhm.
during our meetings. And so again, this is one I fall in the middle on. I see both sides of it because I think it's important to have all avenues of communication be open and available for people to communicate their concerns. And there are some people that have fears of public speaking and may feel more comfortable with an email. But I think it also lends itself to rapid fire, quick emails to someone when you might not, keyboard warriors, essentially. You might write down something and send it through an email versus coming in here and saying it out loud.
Still red. Still red. If we read it, it won't probably have the same spit and fire if it's an angry email. It will be red.
But it also, that's also how much time of our meetings. When we get 20 emails a week, we can't pick and
Right.
choose.
What was the last time we got 20 emails a week? COVID?
Before no, Spanish.
Oh,
Yeah.
Spanish. Oh God, I forgot Spanish.
So that's, I think
Yeah.
we need to be consistent. We need to decide what we're going to do, and we need to maintain that. They are sent to Michelle. All emails are sent to Michelle and included in the minutes of
Not
the
lately.
meeting.
There's only been one.
But where are they in the minutes? Just the summary of what's read, or is the actual?
No.
No, the full actual
Um,
email.
I didn't
I-
see them in the minutes when we had those 20 or so public comments about
The Spanish one?
No, about the LMS Class 8 moving. There was a lot of public
No,
input about
I
that.
have to link those in because it's really what I was gonna do is I used to put everything in one PDF and it was a
Yeah.
run on and people didn't like that. So now I'm trying to link each one to the like
Because
in the,
I
in the
send them to her
correspondence area.
individually as I get them, especially that one. I sat there and went ping, one at a time.
So I'm kind of working on that. It's a little difficult, but I'll get it. As soon as the minutes are approved, when
Well, the
they're
intention
approved,
is
they
to
go in.
have
Yeah.
them up
I
there
want it
in
linked.
full.
Yeah, I want
which
it linked
is
so that people
what I
can
thought the
see
intention
those.
was.
It's just the run-on PDFs. People aren't sure where one email begins and the other one ends. So I've had complaints. So
Okay.
okay, we gotta find a
Yeah,
better way.
they do get
Yeah.
long,
Okay.
like over 100 pages. I've seen them. So
Like when we
it's
had
just,
that forum and
yeah. So the links would be better.
trying to perfect a better way.
I think I don't know, maybe correspondence is different than than community input. Community input is, is coming and speaking. Correspondence is sending an email. And, I feel like, Andrew, you've kind of, when you were the chair of the budget committee, correspondence was, we had this email on this day, we had this email on this day. It was very brief,
You didn't read the whole email?
but you didn't read the whole email.
That's true.
You're
The
right.
selectmen
You're right. It
did.
was summary.
Yeah.
You're right. It was summary.
So I'm okay with that, saying so-and-so wrote about this, they disagree with this, like a one-sentence summary.
I have long summaries.
We also
have
didn't
what?
have
Long
public
summaries.
input though. I mean, in
Right.
fairness, we received
was
the budget
from
report every
departments,
Friday.
right.
We have, you know what I mean?
Right.
It wasn't public input with specific emails
Mm-hmm.
to the budget committee. Very rarely did that happen.
Right.
So again, do we consider correspondence to be another type of public community input, or do we consider that to be something different?
Semantics.
You think it's the same thing?
I don't know.
My view of
because
some,
you read Doug's email, right?
I did. It was the only one.
I-
I need to
I get it.
practice my
It's-
teacher voice also.
Yeah.
Right.
But
again, if we
Doug's
just need to pick something to
email
do.
wasn't.
public-
I don't
Wasn't
consider that
community
public
input.
input or community input.
I don't
That-
either.
Right.
That was correspondence, which was helpful correspondence. But that I don't know needs to be read into.
Right.
And then how do we decide?
I guess where I stand on this is for correspondence, I'm good with a summary of, the person's name and what the topic.
Has anybody ever asked to see the minutes when they're not the correspondence when it's not posted?
I've looked through it before I was
Have
on the
you?
board. Yep.
Well, most of the
I
things.
thought
are
they were
settled.
always posted in the past, so maybe in the transition they haven't been right now, but
Well, yeah, but I haven't had anybody ever ask me for.
That's right.
My view is it's a member of public, not Doug or anybody else, right? But if it's a member reaching out to this board as a concern, we should give them the courtesy and read it in its entirety.
Okay.
What if the email's 3 pages?
or we get 20
had a
of
lot
the
of
same
those.
type of emails.
And I'm not saying it to be facetious or to be rude, but honestly, what if the email is 3 single-spaced pages because they're very concerned about whatever the topic is and they're passionate about it? I mean, are we actually going to read that full email into the minutes?
I
Is
think
there
we
a
should.
time? I mean, we have a time limit on community input. I mean, is it you read the first 3 minutes of the email? And I don't know. I feel like if it's something that you're passionate enough about to send an email, I would hope you would come and give public input.
Of course, but I think the reality of 3-page emails is probably few and far between.
Yeah. You weren't here last summer.
That's true.
All right. It doesn't sound like we have consensus on this.
I feel like this is a simple topic too.
It is.
Should be right.
All right. I'll make a motion to move that, and I'm just going to phrase it in the affirmative. That correspondence will be summarized during board meetings and added to the minutes of the meeting.
In full.
In
Right.
in their entirety.
Correct.
So-
Second that.
So minutes will be summarized.
Correspondence will be
Sorry,
summarized,
correspondence will be summarized and then
included in
entirely
their
attached
entirety
to
in the
minutes.
minutes. And we have a
I'm just
second.
sensitive to the fact that in some cases when we summarize, it doesn't represent the spirit of what the message is.
According to Scott McDonald.
According to others as well. And again, I'm
Yeah.
reflecting back on things and topics this board has already seen over the past 3 months since I've joined.
Someone like my husband doesn't feel like he should come here because the town gets enough, the school district gets enough from me. Why should both of us be here? That's why he wouldn't come
So
in and
we
talk.
could also encourage people who write in to create their own summary, right? Like give us a, 2-line summary.
So
There's a motion in a second.
we have a motion in a second.
Sorry, for a second.
Yeah, who's second?
Tara.
I did.
All right.
Where is this written down? So is this a
This
part
would
of our
be-
policy somewhere?
This would be in policy. It would be in
There's no
BEDH.
correspondence.
There's
I
no
didn't think there was a
correspond, no, because that's why I asked.
Correspondence
Right.
policy.
So this
So
is
this would just be a procedure.
It's a procedure.
okay.
All right. Are we ready to vote?
What's the motion again?
To
summarize.
summarize, but then
But attach in
in
full.
full.
Summarize during the
Yeah.
meeting, but attach info. Yeah.
Include in full, not attach. Include because you might do a link,
I'll
right?
do a link. It's
Okay.
easier that way.
But just to reconfirm, has that been done in our past meetings or is this still something in a process that needs to be worked out?
It had been
It
done in the past.
Had been done in
Since
the
COVID.
past in a PDF document.
Yes.
Most of that is all archived now, but
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
now it's just a matter of just linking. I think cutting and pasting into a document and linking it is the best way to do it. Because I've tried doing it with a PDF and it doesn't work out the way it gets misformatted, and I don't want that to happen. So I want to link it clean, and if I can get the emails. So
There's only one. I sent you the other
I
Spanish ones.
got like the last meeting, I didn't get any from you. The one before that, I'm sure. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
The
didn't get any.
library one? No, what one was
If
it?
you're not sending, are you sending them to the right account?
ME?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll do it when I get home.
All
If I'm
right,
still
that's
awake.
fine. And I can link them all in, and
Okay.
Right.
But I sent you all the Spanish
My
ones.
vote, just
Think
my
I do
vote
have-
yeah.
will be
I'm
no.
gonna call for the vote now.
I feel that it, again, the community's writing in, we should give them the courtesy to read it in full. Leave it at that.
All right.
Because if we're going to give them the courtesy to have a link up and they're not coming, yeah.
Oh, we're not giving them that courtesy anymore.
No.
Apparently.
Yeah, you just voted against that.
Guess it no.
So all in favor of summarizing and posting in the minutes, say aye.
I
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, 3-2-0. So,
Back to that Google Meet thing. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but no other board does it. So why would we?
It was COVID.
it was an
Right, no-
opportunity for people who couldn't come to the meeting because of the hour of it
Yeah, they write letters
to
instead.
participate from home.
I know that's
They write
out of
letters
scope for
instead.
tonight, but that's something we do need to talk about as well.
Absolutely.
So is the
Changing
time,
the
is the
meeting
start
time.
time of our meetings.
That's why I do 2 community. But that's a different.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're done on emails.
Woo.
Do you want
I warned you in advance, Heidi. You weren't here. I said, I don't think the time is right on the agenda.
We have an
Yeah.
hour left. We have an
All right,
hour
here we
left.
go.
We can do
the
it.
time is never really right on the agenda.
No.
I know.
We just have wishful
Are
thinking.
we on KA
That
now?
hour includes all the rest of the items.
Are we
It's
on
fine.
KA?
It's
Okay,
fine.
just saying.
So should we talk about public input? Because I feel the
Yes.
3-minute limit, I think that's the next
Yeah.
natural.
That sounds
Oh,
good.
progression, yeah.
So that's policy BEDH.
So under the same spirit of the conversation, right? I mean, if somebody's coming in here expressing concern,
Mhm.
we shouldn't limit them to exactly, your time is up, next.
So that's typically that's not what has happened in the past.
Then
If
why
we
have it in policy, right?
If we have like we had last summer, 30 people who wanted to speak, we did
Yeah.
limit it to 3 minutes apiece so that everybody could have a chance to speak without prolonging the meeting beyond that. If it's one person, generally, we let them go beyond until they're done speaking. Or we have voted in the past too to allow somebody to keep talking. So I think it's a guide, yes, it's a policy, but
But
it's
it
at the
comes
board's.
across to the public, the things we don't want to hear, we give them 3 minutes. And the stuff we want to hear, they get more. That's how the public sees it.
It's
Okay.
only in the interest of time if we're
Absolutely.
really.
So I
if
guess, is there a
it's-
motion to make an amendment to that policy?
What happens if we're over 15 minutes? I mean, 2 15-minute segments shall be set aside on the agenda. So what
Minimum,
happens?
Never go over
right?
15 minutes.
There's new legislation on that, isn't there? Or did that get tabled?
I don't believe that got passed. There was an effort to actually say that public comment at board meetings had to last like an hour.
Mhm.
And then
And
they wanted
Oh
to
my
change it to
gosh.
half an hour, and I don't think either one of them
I
passed.
don't
Yeah.
believe either passed.
Yeah.
In the past, just
Yeah.
historically, the board has never really stuck to a 15-minute.
Right. If
Unless
we
they're
have a-
big-
But again,
huge
it's in our
things.
policy. I'm not debating our practice. I'm debating what's written
Yeah.
down in the
Okay.
policy itself.
So here's my thought. I like the selectmen setup of having times for public input. So they have their public input
Will
at
not be earlier
will
than.
not be earlier than, and they wait until 6:45.
Mm.
And so if no matter where they are on the agenda, if there's something that takes it till then, that way people know if they want to be heard, they have to be here by this time. They are here, they leave. And same thing with the second one. So if we make the second one consistently at 7:30, even if we're in the middle of a policy discussion, we're going to pause that and go into the second community input
Yes.
so that the non-agenda items can be discussed. We're going to open it up and then people can move on and we can finish the rest of our meeting.
I love that.
I think
Totally
for
fine with that.
planning purposes,
Also like the idea.
that would be helpful. I agree. I don't think we should have a time limit on community input. My question is, if we have a meeting where 30 people show up and they all want to speak, can we vote to request that people keep it to 3 minutes? So
Sure.
can we put the 3 minute in if necessary versus not?
And then it will really be for time reasons because there are so many people.
But you can
there.
explain that at that meeting without coming across as being restrictive.
So,
I
so
feel like-
what I think your attorneys would tell you
Yes.
is that if you suddenly restrict it, then people will say it's a restriction on the free speech.
If we
So,
already
so
have
by
it in
having a policy
policy,
that says it's 3
consistent.
minutes,
Okay.
you have set a consistent rule for everybody. So now you're not going to be accused of, well, I only want to give you 3 minutes, but you can have an hour. So that's why these policies are in place. They're not unusual for boards. I mean,
Right.
most school boards have a policy very similar to this.
I looked this up once and I can't remember.
Could we put in there to say that can be, I mean, I know we can do it, but can we put it right in there to say that 3 minutes per person, however the board may vote to extend?
That's already in there.
That is?
Yeah, that's in the,
Where's that? I don't see it at the first one. Sorry.
This period may be
Yeah,
extended
you
by a
can look
majority
at
vote
it.
of the board.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
we did
Good.
that
If
for
I
our
go to
meeting.
testify before the House Ed Committee, there's a time limit.
There
And You're
is,
asked to, prepare your comments knowing that you have 3 minutes or whatever the
Yeah.
time limit is.
Which
It's not
is
unusual.
great, but I would say respond to that. We're not the House Ed, like that's,
Understood.
we're a small town. I think we should have an open door policy for people to come in.
But I really like the
I
think-
time
but I
thing.
also
I do
like
too.
having 3
I
hours.
really like the time thing. It might even be further apart than an hour and 15 minutes.
I was
Yeah.
being hopeful that
Like-
maybe our meetings are going to get shortened,
Right.
and that maybe we'll be able to be out of here by 8. But maybe that's not,
Not
going to
if we
happen.
started.
I'm trying, guys. I'm trying.
But I
Um,
also like on the second bullet for individual speakers will be allotted 3 minutes per person. If that's going to stay, I like the addition of this period may be extended by a majority vote of the board. So using
It's
that,
on the-
Looking
it's
at-
on the
yeah.
first bullet, but not on the second bullet.
Yeah, I agree.
So if we
That's
can
why
just
I
keep
didn't
that
see it when I
consistent.
looked for that.
I agree with both of those ideas. I think having a set time is easier for everybody. Not me, but everybody else. And it's more predictable that way. And I
We might actually get more participation. that
Well, but
way.
you also will not
By
have,
them
Yeah.
knowing.
you won't have public sitting here for 2 or 3 hours just
Exactly.
waiting for
Exactly.
the opportunity to speak.
All right, I know I can't
Courteous.
get there for the 5:30 one, but
Right.
I can get there for the
Sure.
8:15 one, and so
Right.
I'm gonna make it. So
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just.
all right. So can we bring BEDH to the next meeting for a review? Because we made those amendments.
We haven't voted on them. Do we need to,
Oh.
or do you
Well,
want to bring it?
I don't know. I mean,
The
So that
challenge
tonight-
is we just have to make sure to set these times so that we know we're going to be still in session. You know, do you know that's the only
Which we
challenge.
also, if we're going to discuss our start times, then we need to have that conversation first.
So I think for next meeting for BEDH, if we can just redline this and make the recommended
Yeah.
what we talked about, and then we
Yeah.
can review it and
Yeah.
approve it at our next meeting.
so do you want the time? The time?
Can I give a suggestion? It's a
Yeah.
Google Doc. Make it a Google Doc, give it to the board
Yep.
and let the board redline it. And
Yeah.
you can have
Actually,
your
it's-
comments and come up with where you want to be with it. So
You have a folder in your drive that's district policies. You can go
Yeah.
in and you
But-
should be editors in there.
are they PDFs or are they
I
Google
think
Docs?
they're docs.
This is
but I'll-
PDF.
I'll recheck.
They're
it.
all
I have it as
PDFs.
PDF.
We'll make sure that you have it as a Google Doc so that you can use the power of the Google to
Sounds
do the
good.
group editing, redlining, or actually you put it in, does everybody know how to use suggesting mode?
Yes, I love it.
Okay, so just in the upper right where it says editing, right under share, if you click on it, under that is suggesting, and that is like track changes in Word, if you're familiar
I
with
don't
that
think we see
feature.
it because it's in PDF, but yeah.
Teachers use it to correct work. It's
And so
fabulous.
you can make all the suggestions you want. They'll be labeled right on there who did it. I mean, it'll be a good way to proceed.
I've done comments
Oh.
in PDF.
Okay.
Sweet. Okay.
All right. Are we set on public input?
So,
We hit all the concerns there?
so only one policy we're going to put into that format so that you can.
Okay,
Okay.
I got it.
Andrew, you had concern about the scope of limitation to the agenda items only for the first public input session.
Right. And so I'm reflecting back on that policy where it has to be limited only to agenda.
The public comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't,
For the first one. For the second one, it can be anything, but for
Yeah.
the first one, it's about agenda items.
why is that in our policy to begin with?
HSBA, wasn't that
It
in the
was a
model
recommended policy. by
So
HSBA.
the history of that
Yeah.
is that, remember, the board is conducting a meeting in public, but it's your meeting. So the ability for the public to come and comment in that first session is, tonight you're going to be discussing moving 8th grade. And here's my thought on it. People are directing comments to stuff that you're going to be voting on later in that meeting. And it just streamlines it. So in other words, somebody's not coming in saying, I think there should be an investigation into blah, blah, blah. You've got business to get conducted. So the purpose of that first session is to provide input to the board on actions that you're planning to take. And then the second public comment is, now, is there something else? Because we need 2 weeks to get ourselves organized, to get it set up, to, do the
Be ready to
planning on that,
respond.
to decide if that's even something, whatever gets raised, if that's something that we want to consider. So that's the reason why it's parsed out.
Yep.
Again, fairly typical. I've seen that in most boards that I've worked with. So
I don't mind it under the spirit of what the changes to when public comment will be, right? So if we say our second public comment is 8:15 or whatever the time is that we agree upon, somebody's not waiting until 10 p.m.
Right.
to have that second public comment, right? So I think that helps ease my mind with this point, right? Because here's a dedicated time. We're communicating what that time is. Come here and be heard.
Okay. Any other comments about that? All right. So are we copacetic on that one? So leave it as is?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else for public input?
do you want to set the times?
Well,
Or is that,
I think we need to
need
figure
have
out
the
meeting time.
conversation what
Yeah.
time the meetings are starting.
sorry, back up, right?
yeah, and then we can do that. Okay. So the next thing on my list is community groups and community outreach and
Yep.
communications. So we briefly discussed, we've kind of touched on this topic a few times. I think it was Tara who said it might be beneficial to have community groups and people in town who want to invite us to their meetings to fill out a form. Just who you are, what
basic
topics.
information so we
Right.
know
So we can have
who's
a
the best
contact.
person to send. Maybe it's not a school board member. Maybe it's somebody from,
Mm.
one of the schools, or a different admin.
I don't think that's part of their job.
I think we're over engineering it at that point.
Yeah.
I think they're just looking for people to come and to
Listen.
listen and to be heard. And,
Mhm.
I think it's especially important with a new elementary school potentially, to be able to have those types of roundtable conversations with people in our 55 plus communities and across these various forums.
I agree. I think one of the difficult things is finding the contact. Who do we contact? I agree that we need to do more pushing out and reaching out with the community. In the Veterans Club case, Bobby Jakes reached out and
Yep.
said, we'd like to have board members there. I think there's still an aspect of being invited rather than, I don't know.
So in my mind, there has to be an invite. So if it comes to you or if it comes to me, then we need to turn that over somehow to someone, and they have to gather the right information, like the details of the meeting. Who do they want? Like what is the topic of
I
what
think
they're
it's
looking
simpler
for?
than that
So I
initially.
think a form is just, that's one way to gather the information. It doesn't have to be the only way.
No, absolutely not. I think it's simpler than that. I think it's just a matter of putting it out on our district Facebook page, right? And sharing it with WhatsApp or whatever the various Facebook pages are. And say, hey, we want to be a part of the community. If you want us to participate in a session with your,
Questions, concerns.
well, with your community itself,
Yeah.
right? With your, we'd be glad to join it and answer those questions
We
On
can
your
certainly
turf.
post that.
And then they need to know how to contact us.
Right.
Right,
You
and they
know,
can do, but we can do
Either
that.
send a form or send an email to such.
That's
Right.
it.
You know.
That's it.
Yep, we can do that. We can certainly post that. When we do have those kinds of engagements, I think it's important that we have 2 members in attendance. And,
Because some people hear things differently than others.
right.
And I got your back.
Right. And, we don't want to say things or make promises to people that we're not authorized to make on behalf of the board. That's just another thing to be aware of,
So what happens if 2 people can't go? Then we just don't go.
Yeah, we say we have a conflict.
Yeah, because 3 would be a quorum, right? So it's 2 is the right number, I think.
And we can bring back what you heard, what you saw. It's like a committee meeting.
Well, that was my
Yeah.
next bullet
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
actually would be then those 2 members report back to the board about
Right.
the meeting that they attended, what were
Yeah,
some
absolutely.
concerns,
About
right?
flags or,
Yeah.
volunteers in the school.
Okay, so I guess the action on that one would be to post. Do we want it to be on the district page or the school board page? I mean, if we're going as school board members, it should be the school
School
board
board.
page,
Yeah.
right?
Whatever.
But we can put out on the school board page that it's there now.
And you can share it, right?
Yep.
Perfect.
All right. I'll take it. If Tara or Liz, do you want to take action on that, or do you want me
Does
to
that
or
mean-
post on Facebook about that?
I'm
let us-
not on the school board Facebook page. I think it's you and Tara.
It is. Would you like to be, or
Oh, it doesn't matter.
okay?
I don't care.
Christina's looking for somebody to manage the content on that.
I thought you were doing it.
Well, we've been kind of doing it when
Oh.
we remember, but we haven't been consistent
Sparsely.
about it. Right.
That was the last discussion.
You guys tell me if we vote on what to put out there, it would have to be board approved. Like what important things that need to go out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
That was another subject area.
Moving all intertwined.
All right.
Yeah.
So moving on to social media.
Oh,
And here we are. So we have the school board page. I don't think we have an Instagram account. We had a Twitter account, but I haven't been updating that.
Either it's a
So
school.
that's pretty much dead. So we have the school board Facebook page. So as vice chair, you take care of correspondence. Do you want that responsibility?
Fine.
You're okay doing that?
Yeah, I'll add it to my
Okay.
Campbell class of 2023.
Okay. So I had in my notes on social media, informational only. So I'm
Yes.
thinking like
I don't want any controversy.
upcoming meetings,
agenda?
announcements for each meetings, a
On
link
Mondays?
to the agenda.
I think
Um,
comments turned off.
Yes.
Is that something we can do just
But that
because?
quick messaging.
I don't think they should be left. I don't think they should be off. I think even if there's a question, I mean, in the last even 3 years, I don't think we've had anything on our school board page
Because
that's
it's all
been
on
a huge
Facebook
issue.
Moms and Litchfield.
Right,
There
exactly.
have been a couple of times people have
And then
asked
there's
questions.
I mean, people will
through
message the page.
Yeah.
Well, I had someone message me to ask what the hours of LMS were.
Right.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I think
I'd rather
having
have-
that two-way communication is fundamental to any social media. So I think,
Should we
No.
vote on that?
yep, go ahead if you want to.
I disagree.
I'm reminded if multiple board members respond, it becomes a quorum.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right. And I
So-
think we're all well aware of that. But but Liz would be responding as the admin of the page.
The other piece of that to me, I mean, if we're not responding to individual emails, because we're not authorized as a member of the
Right.
board, we shouldn't be responding to
Individual
comments.
Facebook
So, but we
comments.
are in the sense that we have the bounce back. So I would be in favor of having some canned messages, right? Like, this, like, I think you have to take whatever topic it is and say, please direct this to so-and-so.
I would have sent
If
them a
it's
private
school board
message.
comment.
I just don't want to open up that can of worms.
Yeah.
I remember as a budget committee when we did this, we just said no public. You
No
can
comment.
comment all you want. The
Right.
board will not respond to it.
Right.
And
Unless
that's the
it's at a
way I
public
think it
meeting.
needs to be, because I think if you
Yeah.
respond to some but don't respond to all,
Right.
it creates, oh, you don't like what I have to say, but you'll respond to so
I don't know the
and so.
answer to that one.
It's-
So respond.
I had,
We've had very few comments, and you know what? The last bit of comments we had were when we were having when the contract was up for renewal for the teachers and the staff, and we were putting these nice photos up. So you're going to prevent people from, commenting on those too.
But the
But they
schools
can
are
like
doing
and
it
love
now.
They can still like and
They
dislike.
can still like and
be
love.
angry.
The middle school's doing that now. I saw that nice bike
Yeah.
picture
Yeah.
today.
All right. I guess
I don't
we're-
like that. I don't like it because I think there's a way to respond to them. My two
Do
cents.
you want it back? You're it.
Well, I think
You know
we-
what? You post and I will respond.
I
I'll
I
come
think
up
we
with
need to-
responses.
I think
I
we
agree.
need to vote on this
responses.
one too.
So I'm going to make a motion to continue to have a Facebook page present, but that comments should be turned for informational purposes only, and comments should be turned off.
I'll second.
But that means I'm okay. Well, whatever. I have to say no. I support the Facebook page, but I don't support comments.
and are we talking public comment? No public comment allowed.
None.
On the Facebook page?
Yeah.
See, I don't like that.
Yeah.
See, I don't know that I like that. I
Then we're
think
a quorum then if we all.
I think public can comment. I don't think we should be able to. I don't think we should respond to it.
Mm, you want them to be able to post on there, or do you want them to be able to comment?
I think public can
Those
comment.
McDonald's
no
green
problem.
shirt
I
littoral
think if it's
tonight.
informational only, there, there's nothing to
I think if they
discuss
ask
or-
a question, we should respond.
Then we can do that in public. Hey, I saw this comment.
You're right.
It's not the way to do it on social media. If there's I think we can do it the right way.
Okay. Are we ready to vote?
But again, I see
I don't know
that
that I
as
like the
being,
motion.
I see it being inconsistent with
Our
our
correspondence.
correspondence policy. Why can we respond here, but we can't respond
Right.
here?
How about this? How about we try it and let's see what the community says.
Then you
We
can do it. I
haven't.
won't do it if there are comments. I won't do it.
I'll respond to them. I'll take the responsibility for that. But
I don't
like
know
here.
if you want the
I
responsibility
think
of that because
it's
you're not
not-
speaking for the board.
no, I'm
You're
not.
speaking as an individual.
No,
But
I'm
I
saying-
would be
I'm saying
replying on
let's
behalf
try
of
it
the
with
page.
turned off and see what happens.
Oh, try it turned off.
That was the motion.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just think
good.
What are
that
the
it-
schools pages? And I haven't.
No comment.
No
the reason
comments.
why we have a Twitter, I don't know.
But you can send
School
private
pages
messages.
Are no comments too.
Yes.
Yes.
And
I'm
you can send a message. I sent a picture of the graduation with the kids up in the air. I sent it as an attachment saying, use this for your page for graduation. That was it. I was done.
So the
You-
motion.
You can comment on the school pages.
Okay.
They have to be approved by the admin, I believe. So there is,
Oh.
before it gets posted.
Yeah, I don't want to get into approving comments.
Moderation.
Or not.
Right. Exactly.
Ain't nobody
Over
over
here.
that. So
No.
the motion on the table is to maintain the school board Facebook page and
With informational
with
posts,
information,
but
right.
comments turned off.
That's right. You made that motion.
Oh my
That was
gosh, we had this nice page on the like a post about the veterans on our school board page. 15 people commented, and now we're not going to get those comments anymore.
Okay. I'm going to call the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose.
I
Abstain. 4-1-0. And I'm not opposed. It's not that I'm opposed to commenting. I'm opposed to having to monitor and
That's
I
not the
want to
forum.
be right.
I'm afraid
I wanna
I'll
be
say the wrong
consistent.
thing
I want to be
personally.
consistent. Yeah. Okay. Social media done.
because it could happen.
But there should be a disclaimer on those messages.
That I would agree with too. I mean, I'm happy to have something on the page that says,
Yes.
please note that comments are turned off.
Yes.
If you have any questions,
Hmm.
please email us at
Absolutely.
schoolboard.
On every
whatever.
post that we do, it should have that disclaimer.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm totally fine with that. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Add that to my summer list.
So
I've
do you
got-
want me to make a motion for that, or is everybody in? Are we
That's
in agreement?
procedural. I mean.
That's procedural at
Yeah.
this point. Yeah. Okay.
All right. My fifth bullet point
Remind
or
me.
my fifth bucket
Okay.
is faculty and staff.
What about them? I lost my page.
Communications, outreach. We talked about Andrew mentioned skip level meetings.
So my first comment about this is that communication to faculty and staff has to happen before public communication. Because I know we've been caught with certain public communications going out before staff even know about things.
But it
That's
goes
my only-
both ways.
goes the other
Sometimes the
way.
staff tells people before we
That
even
is
get a chance to tell
Very,
people because
very
it is a small town.
true. Yes, that is true. Good point.
Yep.
We've gotten quite a few, or I've seen quite a few social media comments of my kid came home and told me this
Let's talk about
before
Spanish.
Oh,
this
yeah.
email
Yeah.
Right.
came
You're
out.
right.
It goes both ways.
And so that's where I think we have a slippery slope, right? Because we want to tell faculty and staff what's going on and keep them in the loop. But at the same time, I don't know that there can be much time between.
Well, I took this bucket in my mind was more not like administration details and things like that. This is board members meeting with faculty members.
Oh,
Oh,
that's different.
You know what I mean?
meeting how?
On like an
the
issue of
skip
their
level meeting
interest or
things?
something
Yeah.
like
Right.
that.
What we talked
Okay.
about
Skip level.
is, you know,
Oh, okay.
Oh, skip level, not like, hey, you're my son's teacher.
Oh, okay. All right.
in
all right.
business, you know, the board for the company that I work with meets directly with 1-over-1s. So,
A union?
No.
That's why.
but I mean that, but in order to feel heard, right? In order to feel and to cultivate culture, which is a big issue within our schools, we've heard that,
Mhm.
right? I want to make sure that our staff are feeling heard.
They
How
should.
how do I do that if we're gated?
You can't, because if I have a problem, I go to my union rep in my school and I say, listen, Kim, this really pissed me off and blah, 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 blah. And she'll go, I'll let Keith know.
But I'd love to even be able to meet with the union reps.
They,
We can't
they
do
won't
that.
come without a lawyer, and neither would I.
Fine,
I would come
bring a
with
lawyer.
And we need our
We,
lawyers
we
too.
pay our lawyer.
Yeah.
So when
But again, it's under the spirit of improving culture.
But it's a union thing though. I don't know what the answer is.
What might help is to understand what we do now.
Mhm.
So I have a monthly meeting with Kathy and Darlene because they are the president and vice president. Holly and I sit down, we have an agenda, we bring whatever topics to the table. So anything they've heard from employees that have come forward, they're able to bring
Same with
in.
us.
If
Yep.
we're working on something that's going to impact members of their unit, we have a conversation about it. So we try to keep an open book, and if there's issues, we solve them at the lowest level possible. Occasionally it's, can we get this resolved so we don't have to do a grievance, because we have a formal problem-solving process called grievances, but we'd rather avoid that. And so we try our best to get everything worked out the best that we can. And I think by and large, we've had a really good relationship, in my opinion. They can comment on for themselves. I'm putting them on the spot, but I think it's worked toward trying to, make headway with issues that might pop up. Likewise, to Liz's point, every single time I've heard from an employee with a concern, I do listen. We don't always agree. And part of the problem of not being heard is we didn't do what was asked. And that is the case. It doesn't mean they weren't heard.
But I'd have if I was working in Litchfield, I would have my union rep with me because that's why I'm part of a union.
And we do that. We listen. And sometimes we'll say, well, here's what we're restricted by. I mean, there's language in the contract that sometimes is restrictive. That's just the reality of it. So I can promise.
I understand what you're saying, though. I completely understand what you're saying.
But I can promise the board, people have multiple avenues to come forward and to express concerns to their principal, to their union reps, to directors, to me. There is that ability to be heard.
But there are different cultures in every school, what I've noticed through the years. And I don't know about you. There are different cultures in every school, and there are reps in every school. And I don't know. Have teachers come to you directly? Do they come to you, Tina? I don't.
Have they come to me
Yeah.
directly? All the time.
Yeah.
And I can promise you, I have a pretty open door. It's not hard to get to me. My calendar is public. People will email and say, I'd like to talk to you about blah, blah, blah. I'm like, schedule a meeting. You see my calendar? Go ahead and book a time. Come on down. Let's have a conversation. That's always my reply.
So what would you want to find out in a skip meeting, Andrew?
It's not that I want to find out anything. I just want to make sure that our staff feel heard. And I'm trying to balance this conversation with what was reported to this board in May. I don't know which meeting, don't quote me, right? But it was one of them where we received a report of staff departures, whether they were retirements or whether they were early departures. And over the past 5 years, 89, that's a hard number, 89 staff, whether it be through retirement or leave, have left our district.
Did you do exit interviews with most of them?
Every one of them.
But that's a
Yeah.
problem. But that number, right,
Yeah.
is a problem. And I think we as a board need to figure out a different way, a different avenue to address it.
But if
And-
you look at GMS, the number is much lower. And us
I'm
not
saying
having a
district-wide.
contract for or how many years it was, if I can come here and make $12,000, which I could, more, I'm gonna jump ship. But I
Okay,
kinda
didn't
like
we
Graham.
agree to hire somebody to work on?
Yes,
Fisher
we did
for
do
us?
someone,
Yeah.
No problem.
So we have the grant money to hire
yeah,
Bill.
the surveys.
There's panorama surveys. There's all sorts of survey data that we've collected. I think it's very easy to look at the number 89 and say, that's how many people have left over, what'd you say, 5 years?
It was over 5 years, yeah.
5 years. But I can tell you this year, we have been so assertive and aggressive at hiring. We're picking up rock stars from other districts because people are moving. That's just the reality of it. And so we forget that, yeah, this person has retired. And it's very easy when you retire to say, I'd keep teaching if, and then you fill in the blanks, right? Okay. But you've also been in the profession a long time. You are retiring. Some of the retirees have taken jobs in Catholic schools in the area. Well, they're going to pull their full pension. They're going to supplement it with the income from teaching in the Catholic schools. I'm not judging that. If somebody's got a little more gas in the tank and that's what they want to do, that's fine. But understand it's very easy to say, I'm leaving because, and they finger it with a reason. But the reality is that there's more to it than just that explanation.
There was a
And I think we have
mass
to be aware of that.
exodus of people when we didn't have contracts for 3 years. And that's like $5,000. So for a young teacher, could you imagine raising a family on $46,000? They jump ship and go to Bow where they can make 56 or 51. That was a big exodus at one
Well,
point. I think it was before you were here, or maybe right when you showed
since
up.
I've been here, when the voters of Litchfield voted down the contract that we brought forward, which did all the makeup steps,
Mhm.
okay? So we corrected all the
Yep.
people who had lost steps. The voters said no to that. We renegotiated. That was not in the final agreement. The people who left went to other districts to make up those steps. It's a fact. And they can say,
And that was 17 people that year.
and they can
Yeah.
finger point back and say, well, my principal didn't support me. The superintendent's an idiot. I don't care what they frame it for. They went somewhere else to make the money that the voters didn't give them. That is absolutely the case with those employees. And so I just think we have to have an open dialogue about if we want to retain, if you want to attract teachers, it takes money, it takes benefits. Those are key.
Positive
doing
work
it.
environments.
And then a positive work environment. And we're working on the culture.
The high school turns over, every high school I know turns over at least 10 to 15 people. I think there are 35 at Alvern. There must be more in Nashua. I can't even imagine. High school teachers bounce around a lot.
I read an interesting report the other day, and it said that this actually begins at the top. It begins by the board superintendent interactions, and the way we work together as a team demonstrates across the employee base what the general attitude is, right? And so I'll share it with the board so
Believe
that you can
that.
see this article, but it basically says you have to begin there, set your goals, set your priorities, demonstrate to people the commitment that you have to people, and then it will infiltrate through the system. So, but what we're seeing is not, this is happening in every district, the great resignation. It's not just in schools, it's industry, or it's across industry. So it's a bigger question of what people are taking action on right now.
And I'm not opposed to having discussions with staff members about what we can do as board members to improve things and to work.
But could we bypass the union leadership to do that? Or they would have to be there with your your people?
Here's my question for review time for the superintendent. Do we have communication with LEA or LSSA? Are they part of the review process?
That's a good question. No, they haven't been in the past.
I've only done that the one time. So I
Right.
truly have no idea how that works.
Right.
But is that an appropriate time to have a conversation?
I would hope the principal and vice principal have a pulse on how each of their employee works.
And we do have feedback from the
Like,
admins.
Just things like,
Mhm.
yeah.
Go back to my first year. I administered a survey with every teacher,
Mm.
every parent.
Mhm.
We got feedback. It was the full circle leadership model.
Yep.
Hundreds of comments. I shared every one of them with the board.
Mhm.
And so we got away from that during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And part of it was everybody was angry over everything, it seemed.
Well,
And so we
tired of surveys.
surveyed out, but we were
Yeah.
surveying on things like the models and so forth. So we thought, okay, here's one more survey.
Right.
And it seemed like everything was a 50-50 split.
Right.
You know, you were just trying to keep 51% of the people happy at that point. So we can get back to those. Those are
But teaching
easily
is
done.
hard now. It's not the way it was before COVID.
No,
it's a
absolutely not.
totally different beast. People are exhausted. And I'm not talking beyond, you see different things. Parents are working twice as hard. The teachers, people are just tired and they aren't going to be
Everybody
super
Issues are
happy.
just so prevalent.
And everybody is tired. The admins are tired.
Parents,
The superintendents are tired. You know, like everybody's doing overtime and double duty.
But the message that our team is trying to portray is
Mhm.
next year is normal.
Yeah,
It's as normal as
absolutely.
it's going to get. So the
Yep.
whole
Hooray.
we're tired thing, like, okay, go on vacation.
Yep.
Next year is a new year, and we need to get back to normal.
Yep.
And so,
Absolutely.
on some level, you know, all of these conversations, we have the ability to get back to surveys. to,
Structure,
you know,
Right.
discipline role, all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Mary and I used to go and sit in the schools and have open office hours.
We can do that
We got
again.
away from that during the pandemic. We need to get back to that.
Do you attend meetings with the LEA president and Dr. Jetty?
I attended one, but I don't attend the regular monthly
Regularly.
meetings.
No. Can you comment on that for a second? Because we were in the meeting
Mhm.
and because Tina came, the attorney came.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is you start to elevate.
Escalating.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And
need our
then
attorney and
Tina
that,
asked
yeah.
what I thought was an innocent question, just out of curiosity. What about this? And it was completely shut down by
Their attorney.
the association attorney. So the whole tone of the meeting had been changed by who was there.
Right.
And it went
Right.
from,
The intent was to have a roundtable and an open discussion, but that didn't happen. So
Was it just you or was it you and the other person?
what do you mean?
Brian? Was
Nope.
it just
It
you?
was Mike and I. It was after I was chair. It was the meeting. I said I'd like to start the meeting so that we can kind of. I'm new to this chair position. What can we do as a board to support you? And, but we weren't able to have that conversation.
Well, that's unfortunate.
I agree.
but that's a routine
That's
monthly. I mean, when I explained what,
illustrative.
our meeting, we have the same thing with the
With the
LEA.
LEA, and it's the president and vice president, right?
Correct. In fact, it's scheduled for tomorrow and I emailed to say, I'm on if you guys are. I'm working tomorrow, but I haven't heard back.
Okay.
So are there any motions, I guess, or is there any procedural
I don't know that there is from what I'm
tweaks
hearing,
that
but
we
I
should
just,
make? I mean,
I just wish that there was a way for us to foster a more
roundtable.
positive environment,
Mhm.
whatever the mechanism is. You know, I put open office hours similarly. I wasn't, this comment wasn't in the spirit of the superintendent
Yeah.
sitting there. It was more, hey, I'm a board member, right?
Right.
I'm going to be at GMS from 12 to 1 on this
Yeah.
day. No set meetings. Would love to chat.
And I'd actually proposed that when I first joined the board too. I was like, yeah, I could totally do that. And
But I feel like we're undermining the superintendent when we do that personally.
But I'm not trying to discount. The superintendent is welcome
Yeah.
to join as well, right? This is not a scheduled meeting. This is just like, we want to hear from you.
what if we just say, I don't even know if this is a possibility. What if we just say, hey, two of us would like to come to your next meeting, LEA or LSSA?
Then you're going to have the attorneys, it sounds like.
Well, I don't know.
Not from us. You may get it from LEA, not from us.
Right,
We don't even,
right.
I'm not this fine.
Just in the interest of,
but honestly,
Well, no.
yeah.
would you be open, or would that be would you be comfortable with having that meeting? Is that something that you would want to have, and you think that
Right.
LSSA would want to meet with us, or are they kind of like, whatever?
You have to think about
You're
it,
saying
bring it
attend a
back.
full meeting with the full membership?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me know when that happens.
Well, we would have to be invited, is all I'm saying.
So we meet once, for the most part, to get everybody together.
Yeah.
Is the mandatory beginning of the year meeting.
Yeah.
Outside of that, we pull meetings in, but we only have
Yeah.
enough that would be forum and
Because I think we all agree that, we want to have that open table, round
Yeah.
table discussion. I just don't know how to facilitate that.
and I will tell you, you support staff, when their time's up, from where I go.
That's the tricky part too.
It's unfortunate,
Understandable.
Yeah.
but you see
Yeah.
who's sitting there.
But we also volunteered in the CAF, and that was eye opening.
Yep.
Watching how much time in between, and it's hot, and that was very eye
And
opening.
to do some of these jobs. It's
Yeah.
not working in your kitchen at home.
No.
It's not your own dining
Right.
room.
I mean, that's a good point. I actually, as a board member, I would be interested in volunteering in a variety of capacities in the schools.
Agreed.
I
was
think
looking for
that
subs,
would
right?
be a fabulous way.
But would they
if
be
we
open
could
to
do
it?
that.
Because I
If-
thought we
yeah,
had
if
to
they
ask.
are.
No.
Yeah.
So I think that's almost a more organic way to do
Mhm.
it,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
Yeah.
you volunteer to help somehow in the schools,
Yep.
and people are going to talk to you. But if you, Andrew, what I think is going to happen if you set up office hours is the same people who the
Yeah.
copier never works.
That
Every
they
time I
see-
want to go down and make copies, the copier doesn't work. And you're going to hear that. And then you're going to come back and say, why don't we have copiers at work?
Yeah.
And the answer is they do.
Mhm.
We call the copy repair people as soon as they break. I mean, we take care of all those things, but
Yeah.
you know what? Every school I've ever gone into,
The copy
somebody, the copiers don't work. It's
So
the
Ann-
nature of your,
Yeah.
Remember when Sununu was here and he went in and used the copy machine?
and here's the other thing is, you might come
Yes.
back from that and say, Mike, you need to get copiers at work. So I want to see in the budget. I want you to budget for things, for copiers at work. And another board member might say, why are we making so many copies? Because I've got another board member who's already said to me, that's the paper that we bought. Holy cow, that's a lot of paper. I thought Chromebooks were going to eliminate
Yeah.
that. So
Mhm.
we're back to that balancing thing, right? So
I'd like to volunteer.
So another thing school board members can do is shadow a student for the day, and that was really helpful. I mean, I wasn't like having conversations with teachers at that point in time. It was just like living through the experience of a student, and that was really helpful for me to just understand what did the day look like,
Especially
you know?
before your kids go into high school.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
good idea.
So
That's a good
I
idea,
would
too.
highly recommend that.
So I think the only thing that we need to do to set those things in motion is let Mike know, and he'll let the admins know that, Liz wants to come and volunteer in kindergarten.
I taught first grade. I'm out. Nope.
I'd do it.
I'm glad
Been
you
there,
said
done
that.
So why don't we start there?
Could we also treat the LEA and the LSSA similar to an outside organization? So if they invite us to attend a meeting, that two of us can go. Is that something that
I'm on board.
I'd be fine
similar
with that.
to the
I like
other
that.
policy that we have? So if they want us there, we can get the invitation, and two of us, not three, but two of us
Yeah.
can go. And if
Mhm.
they don't, and they decide amongst their leadership that they don't want to invite us, then we won't attend. But then that way, at least
I
we're
welcome the invitation.
Yeah.
Do you have snacks at your
I will
meeting?
tell you, and I know I'm not supposed to talk, but the best way is the way you come up with. That man was on the playground during COVID when we had school.
Mhm.
And there were people who could have talked to him, they didn't take the chance to. They came and complained to me because he was on his cell phone. Well, you know what? To be honest with you, he doesn't know the job of playground monitor. So if you don't tell him, that's what you're gonna get. 2 former school board members would come into the school and have lunch with their kids. You know what I tell them? Put your phone away. Nobody else in there would, but if you're here to have lunch with your kid, that's what you do. And that's the only way, and even that's gonna be difficult for some people, because they all know you're the enemy.
The school boys don't like it when you couldn't have lunch, by the way. I tried that.
I did it when mine were in middle school, so it wasn't an issue.
But it's-
So those are the 5 buckets that I had. I think we've touched on, you know,
A lot of
conversation ended up being kind of organically productive, I think.
That's how we roll.
It's how we roll. You never know. Does anybody have any outstanding concerns or anything that we missed?
So going back, and I don't mean to go back,
It's okay.
where did we land when it came to an individual member getting an email? Are they forwarding that to the rest of the board or
No.
not? The decision is
It's
to
gonna be on the audit office.
the out of office.
Yeah.
Please
So
send your
we won't
concern
know,
to.
and if they send it to the full board, then it's on our radar. And if
Yeah.
they don't send it to the full board, it's
It's
not
on-
on our radar. It's only on the individual board members'
Right, it
radar.
drives accountability with the person.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure I understood where we landed.
Are we all good with that?
Yeah, I'm on board with
I'm
that.
okay with that. Yep.
All right.
So I still support developing a written communications plan. And literally just being clearer with anything that is an
Yes.
assumption. I don't
More
know. Just
communication is
describing
better.
things and
That's what
without
I
going overboard. I don't know. There's a fine line between being clear and just being wordy, you know?
But when we refer to Mary, she should marry like that's more of our fault. Because we
Right.
should say Mary is this, Doug is this.
Mhm.
And even like when we have things at the high school and other schools,
Mhm.
they introduce themselves by their first name, but nobody knows what their job is.
Right.
And it's just because it's very friendly here. And you're right about some of the things, communication, like you just have to figure out what is this and what is
Right.
that.
But that shouldn't have to be that way.
But if it's bulleted and it has a thing underneath it
Mhm.
and not as long, it would really help.
Right. I mean, I think the other part of this that we're not talking about now, which is because it's going to be taken on by the committee, is having a fully functional and interactive website.
Yeah.
Yes.
Will, I hope, allow us to answer questions, be more easily accessible, have all that information so people can easily find it. The shared calendar that's been
Yep.
discussed about having one joint, all of that stuff, I'm hoping will help make it easier so people don't have to search for answers for questions. It's right there. All
That's
that
the plan.
information. And I know what the committee's working on that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that goes a long
And
way.
it
Will that be
needs to
rolled
be-
out for the new school year?
I'm sorry.
Will that be rolled out for the new school
We're
year?
hoping to, right?
We're hoping to have that by the beginning of the school year, if not early fall.
Where is the accountability in keeping it up to date? Because I still see Twitter things from 2017 on some of our
It's going to
sites.
be it's going to be up to the content editors.
So the way we structured it with that website committee, there'll be meetings monthly in the beginning
Mhm.
to review. Okay, let's go through and look at the pages. Is everything fresh? Is there? They have to start the dialogue because the approach has been sort of, okay, go get it done, and it isn't kept up to date. I mean, I
Yeah.
clicked on a link in the high school and it was an early release form that was like second semester of 2019. I said, that's the form that you have on your main page. You've got to get that updated.
But how would the person, let's say, I don't know who it is, but if it's Julie Green, how will she know if nobody tells her?
Because this committee is going to meet and part of the protocol will be, let's go to the high
Administrators
school
will be there?
page. Let's all lay eyes on it. So everybody look for something to help Julie get this right. And so, yes, the committee will be tasked with keeping everything fresh.
I like that.
Somebody's actually in charge now, you know.
Yeah,
the
just
people.
The
I
committee
get
will
that
have
thing.
oversight. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things slip through the cracks, and that's where we all go for information. Now, who are we kidding? Nobody calls the school. We all go into websites or Facebook.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well, hopefully website
Yes.
and then less Facebook. So any other last minute?
Does that address all the bullets that everyone had written down in this document?
Not all of them. I think we still need to develop a communications plan. That was
Right.
Tara's big one.
Yeah.
Can
I
I just
agree.
be clear? Who's the we? Do you want me to reach out to Will to get one? Do you want us to work on one? Or is that a board?
I think
Sure.
yes,
I thought it was a goal.
I think it's a district action that needs to be taken.
Mhm.
There is that template that he has. And yeah, I mean,
And
I
is
think
this where
we
we're
just, we
writing
offer
down-
feedback.
Is this where we're writing down everything that really we talked about tonight? About what our procedure is for social, about what our procedure is for.
It's not so much the board communication that could be included
the
in
whole-
there,
the
but
whole
it's really communication to our internal and external communication. So communication to staff, teachers, external communication, being proactive with communications versus reactive and interactive, and offering feedback mechanisms and recognition of staff, students, community.
But is
how
that
do
our
we
job?
build?
Isn't that Mike's job?
Perhaps there needs to be a communication committee for the district.
Okay.
Not.
No, I'm just
I don't think it's a
curious.
board committee.
Do you know what I mean?
It's just it just sets the foundation of, this is how we expect the district will communicate with different audiences through different means.
I add it to my workflow from the meeting to get the template. And then if it's something that we can start to tailor, we could bring you either the template to get advice on, or we'll bring you a first draft of the template Litchfieldified.
Okay.
So we'll start.
And
the
then we
first
can
one.
make it a working doc, and we can
Yep.
make comments and suggestions. It's all good. Yeah.
I think we
All right.
learned a lot last year.
I think we did too.
Proactive, reactive.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that dovetails very nicely into our school board goals, our school district goals for
Oh.
21.
Sorry, finalized community
You
forum.
skipped, yeah.
What?
Ooh.
Oh, I did. I scrolled down. All right. Finalized community forum 9/14/2022. So we had, as part of our communication outreach mission goal, we had picked 4 dates over the course of the next school year for community forums.
Yes.
Sponsored by the school
Milton
board.
Bradley.
What's that?
That's nothing.
Oh. So the first one we have on the calendar is 9/14. So which is
Can
September.
you get me up to speed on what exactly this is?
Yeah,
It's
we don't
new.
know yet. So
Yeah.
Well, do we know when parent
Totally
do we know
customized.
when
We know
open
it's a new
houses
idea.
and all these other
Yeah,
things? Is that the week
That's my
before?
concern with this date.
Right.
Is the 9/14 might be too close in time
to the parent,
Yeah.
cities,
Parent
to the
open
school.
houses.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Let it work.
schools.
Let them get a feel for like a few weeks, and then they might have questions.
I'm wondering if we should kick it to
28th?
October.
Yeah.
Well, one thing, it's okay. So if we held it in September, what I was thinking, it would be literally like 3 things: updates regarding LMS construction and GMS new school, what's new this year at each school, including maybe social emotional services.
That should be before
offered,
school starts.
Yeah.
then.
and then a Q&A session. So that was
See,
my
I
original
kind of
See, and my thought was Power School, a Power School
Right,
yeah.
overview from
Right.
Mary.
my
Like,
yeah.
here's what you're going to be, because it's being
Oh, that's
updated this
good
summer.
too. Yeah.
Here's how you use it. Here's
Crash course in
yeah,
Power School.
some sort of go through the whole thing.
I don't. do
That's
we
more
have
of a
to
hands-on session. I feel like, well, I wonder if that's even a standalone thing.
Personally, at the beginning of the year, I don't care about construction. I just want to know what's going on in the school, what time, how to navigate the bus line, what time the buses
But all
are.
of those are done at parent night for each individual
Okay.
school. So each school has we used to call it open house, but it's just for parents where they
So-
go and get that information. I kind of view this as either an educational forum on a topic that our families need to know about. So
Power
Power
School.
School, competency-based grading, and reporting. In the past we've done them on cybersecurity and keeping your kids safe online. We've had a drug and alcohol presentation by the police. Those kinds of topics in education.
But those weren't school board hosted. I think that's the difference. Like, I thought when
Right.
we came up with these community forums, we were modeling it more like the CRT
Yeah,
forum that we had in terms of
right.
come interact with the board, give us some opinions.
Is this just essentially an entire school board meeting dedicated to public input?
essentially. But it would
Yeah,
be a
that's what I
dedicated.
It was
think it
over
is.
and above.
But it was a
scheduled
dedicated topic, so it's on a particular topic, and it was a presentation first, and then public input, and then
I think we're asking a lot of
responses.
parents to spend nights out the first few
Yeah.
weeks of school.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to overwhelm people.
Yeah, September.
I
is-
agree.
I
I
agree. I think you weren't here, Mike, that the 14th might be too close to open house, and trying to figure out when the open house must be the second week in September.
So how do we identify what these topics are?
Hmm.
I mean, because so much of them are point in time at that moment of
Right.
what's real. Right. I mean, yes, we can always talk about GMS, and that makes a lot of sense to include in one of these forms, without a doubt.
Yeah,
Right.
there will be other forums dedicated to GMS.
Fine.
well, yeah. I mean,
Right.
A suggestion that, school culture and climate, I mean, that involves everybody. It's an effort that, thank you. It's an effort that we're all making this year. So, to have, I don't know that Bill Preble's available, but we could find out if somebody from his team is able to come, and because there are parent surveys and parent results. And so just talking, because
Digging into it. Yeah.
school climate, I mean, everybody in the community has to have a vested interest in making it better. And so is that
It's
an
going to turn into a
opportunity?
bullying thing. It's going to turn into a bullying, like bad things that happen in schools.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Bad things do happen at schools, but there's a lot of good things that happen in our schools too. And
Is it just going to be us? Because are we going to ask administrators to come to
This
these
says
things?
community.
Right.
I see community on this. So I'm thinking this is a public thing.
this is yeah.
That's probably
Definitely.
not held in this room.
no,
The intent was to engage the community. So, so here's a topic that is pressing, and we want to engage the community in
Mhm.
trying to make some headway on that. So
Right.
they were scheduled for, what is it, the third Wednesday, I think. So it's in between your two board meetings.
Second, yeah. Second Wednesday.
I mean, yeah, I think if school climate and culture is kind of our theme this year, I think that's a good place.
Why
to
would someone
start.
want to go to that? I'm just asking, I'm being the devil's advocate.
No, you're right. I mean,
Yeah.
Like,
so
why would someone want to go?
what's the topic that drives community to come and participate?
Right.
If you think your kid's being bullied, you don't like the climate.
Well, that's a whole bullying thing then.
Yeah. Why would positive, I don't know. Health and wellness? I don't know.
Social, emotional.
Social emotion.
I guess I still don't understand enough about the original intent.
It was to have more.
I thought it was like to do with construction and all these questions. People, no, it wasn't.
Well, we had those
It
too.
was to get feedback,
That was part of it. It was engagement. It was that, people aren't coming to the meetings. And
No.
so,
Right.
Right.
It's
do
another
they want to
place.
sit here and watch you talk about the manifest? And,
We have to have food.
Right.
Yeah. So
food,
it was.
alcohol.
Alcohol.
Not on school grounds.
But it was to be
I thought it
outside
was-
of an agenda and to be less structured, a little bit more give and
Have
take.
discourse, kind of like we had at the
No, that wasn't
CRT
good.
thing, right?
But I thought it was more like Tara going to the high school one afternoon, Andrew and Heidi going to Romano's on the set. I thought that was what we were talking. No, that was just me.
I think you pick the location. So,
Yeah.
do you have it at Campbell in the library or in the auditorium, or do you move around between the three schools?
But that's another expectation on our administrators because they should be there if we're talking about administrate.
I kind of think we just need to table this whole.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Yeah. Okay.
All
So
right.
finalized community form. I think we just need to table.
If I may, so you asked us back in March to put these on the calendar.
We
So we
did,
did.
Yeah, we
right?
did.
Our next meeting is on August 6th.
Yeah.
Right? So the reason I put it on here for tonight is we need guidance. If you're expecting Michelle and I to set something up or to start communicating or creating stuff, we just need a little bit of guidance. And it's okay to postpone it, I think, until August, but
Why can't we ask the parents what they want?
That's kind of what. Yeah.
Then I know, but
What
then
do
we
you-
don't meet for another month. I like the power school idea. I feel like there's a lot of information that
I like Power School.
will be conveyed and that
Power
will be
school and
timely.
competency-based grading.
So
Yes.
we have Andrea and Mary.
And just going over like even the basics of like, I think a lot of parents probably still don't have a clue how to even get in, how to find what they need, the difference between the mobile versus the desktop. You know, what do you like? Where's the best place to look?
I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Helpful
Pops up
hints.
every once in a
Here's,
while.
here's how you can find
How to
your
set
kid's
notifications.
I think that's going to be more engaging for high school, maybe middle school, right?
Okay. Yeah,
Can you do it on
Elementary
the big screen?
parents aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, how much interaction is there
it's true.
with Power School?
I
Can you
check
do
mine
it
all
on
the
the-
time for my kids.
There it is.
At elementary, you do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'll admit, not being a parent in this district, I don't know exactly what's in there for parents to see. So
For
that's helpful.
K, I had a kindergartner, right? Not much, and there's nothing
Yeah.
really material there. But for second grade and third grade, yeah, I mean, there's real grades in there. I can
Spelling
track
and
progress,
math
and yeah,
That's great. My experience in my school with a different SES is there's nothing in there, zero's
yeah,
there.
no.
So it's not
Hmm.
worth checking,
Mm-hmm.
but that's helpful. So then let's do that.
Flesh that out.
So Power School, and then just say it again, because I'll
I
be
really
meeting with
think
Mary.
Power School, and I think we should have one of these sessions. I know you said separately for GMS, but you need one of these sessions at the beginning of the school year to give everyone an update on where we are with GMS.
Which we
Okay.
are scheduling, right?
Yeah, so oh
Can we
gosh,
add
I
that to
typed,
our school
so
meeting?
the next one's not until December 14th, which
But
is too
we
late.
should hear about from the community, right?
Can we-
In the spirit of community forum.
What are
So we-
people's thoughts on bumping the 9/14 one to the 4th?
We have a school board meeting that night.
Not on the
9/28?
4th.
9/28.
No, not the date. I'm sorry, the
Oh.
4th Wednesday. Yes,
9/28.
9/28. Correct.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the beginning of September are those open houses, and I know they do separate ones for 3rd and 4th, K and 1, so that they're going to be busy.
But there are kids that parents that don't know how to log into Power School in January when it's halfway through the year.
Right,
That-
so
The sooner we can get them, the better.
That's what I was saying. So if we did September 28th,
There's-
then they're still well before the quarter ends. I mean, it's there might even be a few grades in there, so they understand what they're looking at. But
And they maybe would have more questions,
Questions.
actually because they're a month in. They're like, I can't figure out this.
And they'll be
you know?
inputting grades every Friday,
hopefully.
every 2 Fridays, whatever it is.
so we're gonna change the date of the first community
All right, so
forum.
we're gonna do 9/28.
Yeah, I'm just that's just a suggestion, but I
Works.
think 9/14 is going to overlap too much with all the other stuff that the buildings are doing.
Not to mention it's the beginning of budget season, right? And
Yeah,
it's
things are gonna
Well,
get
hot and heavy
busy.
with budget
Right.
committee.
Yeah.
So 9/28,
It's a free time.
6:30
Yeah.
PM,
6:30.
6:30
6:30?
PM.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
tends to be when things start in the district. And the focus will be Power School and grading.
Competencies and grading.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about GMS?
Let's see.
So I'm assuming we will have some forums scheduled with Kyle's team and more community forums coming up. At the beginning
I
of the
thought those
school
would be
year.
separate. I viewed these
They
community
are.
forums as being engaging with the board and engaging with admin and engaging with the district
Yes.
versus those being more information set, similar to what
Right.
you had last year for GMS,
Yep.
those types of.
And
So
where do you want to have this?
Auditorium.
I think the high school auditorium.
Can you
be the
put a
first one.
full screen, how,
Yeah.
like pull down, like
Yeah,
a
I think there
smart
needs to
boardy
be-
kind of thing?
Yeah.
Is that a
I'd
word?
also like to see if we could have it, I don't know, recorded. Because I think that could be a meeting that people go back and say, okay, I know Mary talked about
yeah.
this on Power School. How do I find that again? Oh yeah, I can go back and look and see that. And Mary had been talking about making clips anyway.
Right.
She might be able to make some clips out of this tutorial as well. Kill two birds with one stone.
You can do that.
If we can have good audio in there. I know audio sometimes in the high school is hit or miss.
The
In the auditorium.
Litchfield TV's gotten better with the
They
audio.
do
in
their
there.
own.
So I think
Oh, okay.
we're covered now.
Perfect.
Since Russ has been bringing the equipment in, it's worked out pretty well.
I think that sounds great for a good first forum.
And if anybody would like to suggest topics for future forums, send them in.
So maybe the competency-based grading would be good for the second one. Just another topic.
Before the quarter ends, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, unless we can squeeze it
That
in
would be
on the Power
December.
School one. It's going to be a long night. It's a lot to go over. Okay, now we can move on to goals.
Yes.
Okay. So we have 5 goals.
Yep, and just a reminder to the board. So basically, you're going to be getting the end of the year reports from the schools on their school goals. Our team spent time at Live to Learn working on building-based goals for next year. The guiding document for that is this 3-year plan that the board adopted. So a few things at the top, you'll notice that God, it keeps reverting on Brian's name. So I moved Brian down below and we added Andrew in as a board member. And for some reason, it keeps changing the formatting on me.
It looks better than it did yesterday.
And we also, we had to update our administrators also. So we're trying to keep that alive as we work our way through it. But basically, you know, we started with our mission and vision. We have the portrait of a learner with the 4 or 5 critical attributes that we're trying to work on. And out of that, we ended up with the following 5 goals. So let's pause on each one because I think it's worth the review. If somebody feels like, wait a second here, you know, let's have that conversation. Otherwise, this is what we committed to. And we spent a lot of time developing this. So the first thing is on love of learning. So we're developing confident, responsible, and productive students who are prepared to be lifelong learners. And our indicators are a positive learning culture in all schools and all classrooms. That totally supports the work that we're doing and bringing Bill and the team in. Nice alignment. You can imagine that you're going to see school goals around that and link back to that. Ensuring all students have access to high quality, engaged in-person curriculum and instruction. That is definitely what we are working on. And when I say getting back to normal, obviously that was our wheelhouse before the pandemic, and we want to be able to return back to it. And then focusing schools on the whole child. So academic, social, emotional, and physical wellness. So again, that's aligned with the work that we're engaged in and trying to recommit to. So let me pause on love of learning for a second.
I just have a really small thing. Promote a positive learning culture. I would suggest promote a positive inquiry-based learning culture, because to me, like, if first, it's just that interactivity, allowing, you know, just saying that is that, you know, we want kids to be asking questions, to be curious, and asking questions really demonstrates in many ways a love of learning. So.
I do think in part the second bullet encapsulates some of that because it gets into the highly engaged.
That's what I
That's
thought.
true.
So
Okay.
I think, because you're right, a positive learning culture can be a sit and get culture.
That's not
And
what we
that's not
want.
what any of us are talking about. I think the second bullet makes it clear that we want engaging instruction.
Engaging, not engaged. Yeah. Potato,
Okay.
potato. Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. We're going to wordsmith our own work.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I just have small things. Yeah.
So our second goal is on great teachers and great staff. And so we're going to cultivate a professional learning community that values collaboration, professional and personal responsibility, and continued growth for all. The indicators are ensure that we attract and retain high quality staff through competitive salaries and benefits, develop a professional learning program that supports teacher and staff needs and growth, and foster a positive collaborative culture of data-informed decisions in all schools. And in discussing this and reviewing this with the team, we are definitely looking at how do we better support like the PLC model across the schools. We have new language in our CBA. We talked about that language. How do we implement that? What are the ways that we can make sure that our staff are engaged and all kind of working collaboratively together? So, so we have some ideas and goals on how we're going to implement that, but you can bet that you're going to see some stuff tied to that in the school goals that you get.
Okay, here's a thought. Empower staff to problem solve at the most direct level. mostly because I mean you were talking last time about like how do we get a record of the problems that are occurring, and it just makes me think like I really believe that we want to empower everybody at every level to problem solve and try to talk to the people in the most direct manner that either that there's an issue with, or to really have that one-on-one communication and try to problem solve. So that's my thought for that one.
I think part of sharing with the board, like those chain of command things, it's exactly to get after some of that, to empower people. Like, this is what we need to do. And, you can, every teacher room I've ever been in, somebody's complaining. There's always a complainer in the room. And, when the staff starts to turn and say, so what are you going to do about it? That's the empowerment piece that sort of shifts some of that.
That's a culture thing too.
And a
Culture
cultural
shift,
piece.
growth
But
mindset, and what are we going to do about it? Yeah, I don't know if that. I'm just wondering. I like the idea of it. I just wonder if it's too specific for a district goal.
Don't we empower them by letting them make the competencies, the assignments for the competencies? Or are you talking about a cultural thing?
I think they're empowered in lots of different ways.
Well, and I guess the question would be if the notion of empowerment, when I read, collaboration, professional and personal responsibility, that's partly empowerment. So if the board senses you really want to see that at the school level enhanced, it can become a school-based goal. I'm not sure. The intent today, I don't think, is to revise the goals per se. It's to help give us clarity on how to have the school goals bring these about. So
that
Oh,
was
I
gonna be
thought we
my-
were potentially revising them.
That was going to be my question, because I thought, are we talking about what we've met, not met, and what?
What needs more work? Well, that's kind of a discussion for next time when we have the reports from the schools.
Right. And
Okay.
and today it's more refamiliarizing. We do have a new board member who now his name is on these, but he had nothing to do with writing them. So, how do we, what is it you want to see our team produce? Because we've already engaged around this, but
Right.
Do each school have goals?
yes.
Then this is a general, I don't want to get into specifics. I think if they want to.
I agree.
This is a general thing. This is it. I don't want to mess with it.
We
Let
have,
them get more
we have
precise
these
at the
presentations
school
about
level.
the school goals, and I want to see how we're doing against those school goals,
Yeah.
right? And have
Right.
those be morphed into what are the district goals.
Well, we wanted to
they're
give
based
you
on the
an
district
opportunity to look at these and
Yeah.
make feedback.
And
you
look,
know,
I think these,
feedback
I'm
on
not
them.
going to wordsmith these. I think they look fine, and the spirit of them are spot on.
Right.
I mean, there's
And the-
nothing
I
here to
agree.
debate.
And the buildings took these, each building took these and then
Yes,
created their
their
goals
own.
based off of saying,
Absolutely.
okay, here are our 5 district goals that the school board and superintendent have come up with for us. And then they have their, I
Show me
think,
the stats
3
against how we're measuring against it, right?
Exactly.
And if we need to adjust based upon those stats, then let's have that conversation.
Again, I think reading through these before the meeting and reading through them again tonight, I think these are still 5 really important goals for our district.
Absolutely.
That we are
Solid.
doing a good job working towards. There's room for improvement, and I think that we're getting there. So I'm pleased with our progress on the goals.
I agree.
I
They're
think
still
they're-
our priorities.
But
Yeah, I think there are priorities for each school, definitely. But I think these are well crafted and broad enough that they provide structure and guidance without giving specifics.
We use develop, create, and ensure too much. That's my comment.
Yeah, there's a lot of developing going on.
Well,
Creating.
soon, yeah. Hopefully, the develops will be checked off the list soon.
Okay.
All right, good then.
So the third one is on post-secondary pathways.
Mhm.
And here we're making sure that every student transitioning to college or career is prepared to thrive in those future endeavors. So it's multiple opportunities for students to develop a plan for success. And ensure that all schools nurture perseverance, adaptability, integrity, communication, and critical thinking.
Those are the 5 points in the portrait of a learner.
5 key points, the 5 attributes, and then honor the individuality of each student and encourage a pathway that will meet their needs. And I think this has been one of the harder goals to get after, but I think you're going to start to see it infuse more with what comes forward, because the whole system has to start to operate. This isn't a high school goal. It's got to be
Right.
seen as a goal across the school. So you'll see some stuff emerge relative to this, I believe. Then you have the facility improvements. So here we're looking for exceptional school facilities and learning environments that give students, staff, parents, and a strong sense of community pride and safety. So we're creating a safe, effective learning environment that meets the academic, social, and physical needs of all students. Ensure district facilities are energy efficient and support the needs of the students and staff. Develop a comprehensive facility plan that will encourage student, staff, and community participation. And we've made a ton of progress on this. And so I appreciate that the board laid this out for us. I can assure you, managing LMS while trying to figure out a new GMS, we're spending a lot of time on this. And a lot of this falls on the shoulders of the district level as opposed to the schools. But I can tell you, Jen is owning her project and Dan is owning his project. So Bill just got off easy. And Jake will too.
Yeah.
Then finally, the community engagement. And so here we want to be in partnership with student, family, staff, and the broader community to increase awareness of school strengths and needs. I think part of this was around the forums that we've talked about. So increase public outreach and opportunities for participation in positive school and community activities. Develop a targeted communication strategy and plan to engage the community with the district's growth efforts. Create community partnerships that provide real-world application of learning for all students. So again, some of the stuff that we've talked about tonight, we're getting closer to. You know, you can only accomplish so much in a year. But some of this will be on the district level and the board helping to drive this for us.
Under 3, I did make a comment, and it's just going back to past, I guess, conversations that this board has had, that not every student goes to college or has a career, but our goal is to have a plan, right? And so I don't know if that makes sense to replace to college or career with has a plan. I know we talked a lot about that CHS and graduation. We want to make sure everyone
is true.
has a plan.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Okay. I think that's a good comment.
Yeah.
All right. Any other discussion on the goals?
Postgraduate plans or something.
So I guess we'll,
So I'll let you know, in a personal point, like when I was researching whether I wanted to apply to Litchfield, I read these, and this was a positive as far as me wanting to apply to Litchfield. So they're very well written. I very much appreciated the goals.
good. Thanks for that feedback. I think as someone, you know, I'm not currently, but as somebody, if someone is shopping for a place, you know, looking for a town to move to and looking at their public schools, I think this is a really great, you know, this is what we strive to be and to do. And I think I'd move here. All right.
So we will, you'll next see on our planning document that the schools will be giving you the report of this year's data. We really have to wait for the high school data to come in, especially AP data, et cetera. So we probably could have done the other 2 schools, but I'd rather do them all at once. So that'll be coming up at one of the August meetings. And then we'll be giving you our draft goals on what we're doing at the school level. So it's all tied back to this. And I actually, to Doug's point, it's pretty clear. It gives a nice template and a nice sense of direction. So it's helpful for us to, spend, I know I just read to you, which you're not supposed to read to people, but I think we have to read these. We have to say these out loud. Like, this is what we've committed to. And just as an annual reminder, I think it's actually one of your policies that we review our annual goals. And here they are.
Great. Okay. Are we ready to move on to committee reports?
I will go. There's been no budget committee meeting or capital improvement committee meeting.
Okay.
And there's no capital improvement committee meetings scheduled still. So I will say where we left it last, there was a request by Selectman Leary on some budget information that was inquired to the school to put together a salary comparison of town and school employees, if you recall. You all recall that? And the board position was the budget committee should be able to produce that. There was a second request as a follow-up to that request by Selectman Leary on a list of all school employees and their salary for the last 3 fiscal years. Chairman Sutton and I pulled that together. The budget committee had all that information through files. We put that together and shared that with Mr. Leary.
Thank you.
Done.
Facilities improvement has not met since June 8th.
And we'll meet July 27th.
Yeah, we meet July 27th. I did have a meeting, the first meeting of the website committee, which was exciting. We looked at 5 different websites from our vendor, and school websites from our vendor, and kind of, took notes on what we liked, what we didn't like, what was easy to find, what was not easy to find. And everyone on the committee kind of shared their feedback.
Was there a consensus?
Not really. Like, there were
Okay.
aspects of some that we
Yeah.
liked, and so I think the goal is that we're going to build our own that makes the most sense for Litchfield.
Okay.
But there were definitely some components that I didn't even know were possible that I was like, ooh, that's really cool. So that was exciting, and I think one of the top considerations was compatibility with mobile devices, so that it's easy to see on your phone, which I think is where most people are accessing the website as opposed to on the laptop. So we considered that was a big consideration.
Now I'm gonna really make you excited
What?
because Link, formerly Eastview Schoolview, has an app.
I was just going to say, did any of them have a mobile downloadable app
It
that
has
also
an
we
app
can access
which-
Power School and we can access these, what's that, the K-12 payment center for
Yeah.
meals and lunches?
Those I'm not sure of, but I
But
can
like
find
one
out if
app
we
to do
can-
it all.
right.
Yeah.
But they do have an app, and we are looking into it. We
Right.
definitely want it, even if it costs money.
Yeah. I think
Oh, I
that
love that.
That would be
I
great.
think that goes a long way towards communication and
Yeah.
Central
making
place.
sure information's at everybody's fingertips. So it's very exciting.
Tina or Michelle, is anybody taking notes from? I'm your backup for that. I'm wondering if,
You
like,
took
if I
notes,
can be like,
What's that?
You
I don't
have
know.
notes.
Well, I have some.
if you're sending notes around, or if any like those other website examples got sent around, I'd love to just be on whatever email chain like I am for the
Did I
budget
not
committee.
include you in those? I swear I did.
We just share the folders that
Yeah,
those are all
I
in.
think she can get in
What do you
there and
think?
get everything.
I will look.
Cool.
But anyway, just
Yeah.
if you can include me, just so if she's not able to make it, I can
Yeah.
jump in relatively.
You'll see whatever we see.
Yeah.
I guess.
So is it a shared drive?
It is, well, it's a
Or
shared folder.
with me.
It's a shared folder shared with you. It's called district website.
Yeah, don't you have that?
Oh, I
have that
see
for
it.
mine.
I see it. Okay.
And everything we've looked at is in there. There's a document
Got
showing you the different website pages and all that stuff, and links so you can look yourself and all that stuff. So
Let's see.
Tina, if I may,
Yeah.
you jumped off facilities
Dan?
quickly on me.
Oh.
So I want to extend an invitation to the board to come and tour LMS. If you want to see the inside of it and put the hard hat on and
Mhm.
come walk around and ask questions. So we have our routine meeting on Wednesdays.
Do I have to wear
So-
closed-toed shoes, I'm assuming?
You do. Somebody got yelled at today.
Oh,
Yesterday.
without your iron code, whatever they're
I'm
called.
looking at
What
your
are they
shoes
called?
now.
They're close enough, I thought.
It's
So-
Kind of closed.
Yeah, they are. I thought so. I can.
So, so the meeting would be at 10:30 in the morning. So that's one option, is we could easily accommodate board members and you could do the walk around with us. Joe Campbell's on vacation, so next week's meeting is a little bit different, so we can accommodate that. The other possibility is that facilities was scheduled for 3:30. And so we could do it in the afternoon also, whichever works. And it's, maybe the board feels like I don't need to see it. But I want you to feel welcome and to be able to come and do that. So
I definitely want to see it, but I want to see it at the end of the month when I'm back.
Yeah, before and after.
So
Good
So-
idea.
next Wednesday, the 13th, are people available And is 10:30 doable, or would you rather have 3:30?
I'll just check it.
Not available.
Calendar. Let me check my calendar. I'm free.
So Liz, you can do either. Andrew, you're
I
away.
cannot do
I'm away.
10:30.
You cannot do?
I have an
I
11
can't
o'clock
either.
meeting.
But I can do 3:30 because
You-
I have that blocked
Oh.
off for facilities anyway.
Yes,
All right, so-
I
So there's
Could do
3:30s
as
at work,
well.
and Liz can do anything, and Andrew's away anyway. So
Right.
let me set it up for 3:30. I'll send you an invite. We'll put the hard hats on, tour around, ask questions, and then Andrew, we can set you up at another time.
Cool.
Not a problem. Thank you for that.
Thanks for the invite.
Sorry about that. Anything else? Who else has had a committee meeting? Anybody else? Wellness,
not
webs-
me.
Okay. Perk, grading. Nope.
How long would the
Summit.
tour be? I think I have a half an
That's
hour.
my questions. You have.
You can leave it at
I
half an
know, I'll
hour.
be quiet.
It's going to
Okay,
depend on.
thank you.
It's gonna be longer than a half an hour.
What's that pipe?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to walk and take a look at it. You'll actually be amazed when you walk in there. It's
You just can't ask.
unbelievable. Look at Jen's
Go in
pictures
there.
from today.
I
It's
know.
like-
Amazing.
Keep my
Yeah.
mouth shut.
Amazing. They make it
So,
incredible.
Tara, if you have to leave after half
Yeah.
an hour,
Okay.
that's fine.
All right.
Policies.
Yep. On to policies. We have one,
Madam
two-
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve all policies under second reading.
I'll second.
Further discussion or questions? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Who seconded?
I did.
I-
We tied.
Tara?
But
Yeah.
you can give it to
That's
Tara if you
fine.
want.
Okay,
That was
you
quick,
can-
right?
We have the next one. 500. Policies for first reading, we have KEB, public complaints about school
Excuse me.
personnel, employees, students, or administration. I'll make a motion to approve policy KEB.
Second?
Discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none. All in favor of approving KEB, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve or
Rescind.
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 Yeah, rescind all policies as listed.
I second?
Right. Motion made to rescind policies KAA, KMA, KMB, and KN. Any discussion?
And these are policies being rescinded because they're outdated and replaced with new policies.
Correct.
Right.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. That brings us to the manifest. Any questions?
Still in front of me.
I just had one.
yeah. You're the reason we had to go back last week.
Oops.
Some had 4. Some
Please
had
make
2.
sure they have at least 3 signatures on them.
I have a
Thank
question.
you.
One of the things was for Dalton. Is that a yearly bill? The guy who mows the lawn at GMS? I know you don't
I
know.
guess he does multiple things. I guess he mows the lawn. He also helped out with removal of the furniture from LMS,
LMS.
and then he plows as well. So
That's
I
right.
think
Is that
it
for
was-
the year?
I don't think that's for the year.
Half the year?
He gives us a quote for the plowing, which is one
Okay.
grade. So, and
So
that
this
has-
was mowing and furniture.
right. So
Furniture.
because we were, I'm trying to remember exactly, with mowing, we were down a groundskeeper.
Yeah, he's doing a wonderful
And so-
job. I think GMS has never looked better. To
And
be
then when it
honest.
came to the move, we're down custodians. And so we brought Eddie in, although we guaranteed every custodian had an opportunity to help move first.
Mhm.
And then Eddie was there to
But he
supplement.
trims around the baseball fields and everything. It looks great. But I was just curious how long. Like, I'd like to see. Is that yearly? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? I'm just curious because it's a significant.
Yeah, we'll get your report
Yeah,
on
I
it.
can get back to you on
Yeah,
that.
no problem. That's it.
All right. Public input? No, thank
Do I
you.
open it one more time just for
The
fun?
last.
Was
well,
the vote effective immediately or?
Well, the Google link wasn't in this part of the agenda.
So I guess we don't have to open it?
Maybe Brian's there.
All right.
Just open it. It's okay. I think it's okay. Be the one time that.
All right. The very last check of the Google Meet, which nobody there?
Me.
Not
But I
even
have
Brian.
to say, maybe it would be more. Maybe once we have set times,
I think that
people
would-
will be more
yeah.
apt to join because it's more predictable.
I think so too.
I don't want to give up that link, the hard John Hunk thing. We've
You
had
like that?
all
Huh?
along.
Let's just. Why don't we just frame it and
No, maybe.
Frame it.
Maybe. All right.
Can you save it for one of us if we have to log in?
I'll save it.
Yeah,
Our
that's a good
general.
idea.
You can leave it there. You just don't have to use it,
Yeah.
right?
All right. So hearing no public input, I'll make a motion to go into non-public session according to RSA 91-A:311, sections A through C. The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open.
Good night.
Good night. In which case the request shall be granted. B, the hiring of any person as a public employee. C, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. Heidi? Aye. Tara?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Liz? Aye. And I'm an aye. So that will bring us to non-public session.
Look at that. We're ahead of schedule.
Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good
4
night.
minutes.
Wow.
I stand mistaken.
Log